After waking up, I found a cold goddess lying next to me. After waking up, I found a woman from 1,000 years in the future beside me, and the room had mysteriously changed. When I opened the door, it led to the 21st century, but when she opened it, it led to the 31st century. Chapter 1: The Room's Strange Transformation. 5 a.m. East Sea, in a private villa by the seaside. A young couple was lying together, wrapped in each other's arms. Dingling. As the phone rang, the man, looking sleepy, picked it up and said impatiently, "Who is it? Calling so early, can't you let me sleep?" But soon, a woman's voice shouted from the other end of the line. "Qin Yang, I've arranged a blind date for you today. You must be there by 10 o'clock. Hearing this, Qin Yang sighed helplessly. "Mom, how many times do I have to say it? I don't want a blind date, I don't want to get married this early." "You don't want to get married? You're already over 20. What do you want to do if not get married?" His mother's voice came through with a tone of accusation. "Train in martial arts." Qin Yang replied matter-of-factly. Upon hearing this, his mother's voice became even more irritable. Martial arts, all you care about is martial arts. Your cousin's son is already starting primary school, and you're still practicing martial arts. What is the point of all this martial arts stuff?" Feeling a bit tired, Qin Yang didn't want to talk anymore, and even felt the urge to throw the phone away. But his mother's shouting continued. "Your father said it himself, you're already at the peak of the dark realm, and you've hit a bottleneck. No one in China can beat you anymore. Can't you slow down with the martial arts for a bit and deal with the whole relationship thing first? Then won't I still be no match for dad?" Qin Yang's voice was filled with sleepiness, but also a bit of frustration. Yes, right now, he was not only the strongest among the younger generation, but even among the older generation, very few could match him. So what? He confidently went to challenge his father for a fight, and was slapped so hard that he couldn't even tell which way was up. Right now, he just wanted to train, improve himself, and get that slap back. As for marriage? Forget it. He was only 18. He couldn't understand why his mother was pushing so hard. But his mother wasn't letting up. Is your dad your enemy or your father? And if you want to defeat him, can't you find someone and train at the same time? When am I going to hold my grandchild? Women only slow me down." Qin Yang muttered under his breath, already wishing to end the conversation. "Slow you down? I'll have your father come over and deal with you. You're going today, whether you like it or not. If you don't go, I'll have your father drag you there." "Mom, are you even being reasonable?" Qin Yang felt frustrated. "Just find a woman, and it'll be done." His mother continued to push. "I've said it a million times, I'm not interested in women." Qin Yang felt even more irritated and, not wanting to hear another word, hung up the phone. He was doubting the truth of his mother's words, but frankly, he didn't care much about them either. His parents were traveling in Kyoto, and it would take them at least 3 more hours to get back. With those 3 hours, he would have already gotten up and disappeared for a run. If they really wanted to catch him, they'd have to be able to find him first. With that in mind, Qin Yang put his phone aside, then reached his hand under the blanket to rest it on the woman's smooth waist. "Wait, woman." Qin Yang suddenly opened his eyes, shaking off the drowsiness. He quickly turned to look and saw a woman with delicate features, as if she had walked out of a painting, staring at him with furrowed brows. With a whoosh, Qin Yang jumped out of the bed, no longer concerned about his bare upper body. His face was filled with shock as he looked at the woman who was curled up under the covers, glaring at him. "Who are you?" The woman, still under the covers, spoke first. Her tone wasn't exactly angry, but there was a hint of confusion mixed with annoyance. "This is what I should be asking you." Qin Yang was losing his mind. Just a second ago, he was telling his mom he wasn't interested in women, and the next moment, he was holding a woman in his bed. But where did this woman come from? Could he have slept with her all night without noticing? Impossible. Apart from his father, no one could approach him without him noticing. Could it be his mom? He didn't doubt his mother's mischievousness. With how cheeky she could be, she could very well have pulled off something like sneaking a girl into his bed without him realizing. But that theory was quickly dismissed. If that were the case, why would his mother have just called him to arrange a blind date? So, if it wasn't he his mother, where did this woman come from? Did she fall from the sky? Qin Yang was too confused to think straight. Meanwhile, the woman didn't answer his question, but instead tilted her head and seemed to be pondering something. After a moment, the woman scanned the room with her eyes. When she saw the room, her expression froze. Qin Yang noticed her change in expression and immediately followed her gaze. Then, he was dumbfounded. What is going on? The room had completely transformed. It looked as though someone had split the entire room in half with a giant sword. One half was the luxurious decoration of his villa, while the other half had a more antique feel, with a soft and pink aesthetic, clearly designed for a woman. But Qin Yang couldn't care less about the design of the other half of the room. His mind was overwhelmed with one question. What happened here? The room fell into a tense silence. Can you leave for a moment? The woman spoke calmly, as if she didn't mind at all that they had just been in the same bed. As for Qin Yang, looking at the woman with her smooth, slender figure, he certainly didn't want to stay in the room any longer. Without saying a word, he quickly left. Once outside, everything seemed normal, though Qin Yang didn't think the bedroom was the only place that had changed. After all, their sword didn't strike their hallway. He headed downstairs. Hiss. Even though he had prepared himself mentally, Qin Yang couldn't help but inhale sharply. The living room downstairs was unrecognizable. Like the upstairs bedroom, it was divided in two, with each side reflecting a completely different style of decoration. What shocked him even more was that a vase worth millions of dollars that had been in the living room was now standing there, but only half of it remained. Where was the other half? He didn't know, and honestly, he didn't care. At this point, all he wanted to know was, what had happened? He sat on a half-soft, half-wooden sofa, deep in thought. Suddenly, as if struck by a revelation, Qin Yang remembered something. He recalled a TV show with a similar scenario. But what was the name of that show again? Before he could think further, footsteps sounded from the stairway. Looking up, he saw the woman who had just been hiding under the blanket now coming down the stairs, wearing a green dress and walking barefoot. Chapter 2, 8,000 years later. Seeing the woman descend the stairs, even Qin Yang, who had no interest in women and was focused solely on martial arts, felt his breath catch in his throat. The blue dress fit her figure perfectly, and her long black hair cascaded down to her waist. Paired with her exquisite and serene face, she gave off an aura of purity, as if she had emerged untainted from a lotus pond. Qin Yang had seen many women before. Back in school, due to his affluent background, outstanding looks, and years of martial arts training that gave him a well-built physique, countless girls had pursued him. He had seen his share of beautiful or charismatic women. But none of those women could compare to the one standing before him. Why aren't you wearing shoes? Qin Yang asked in confusion. However, the woman didn't respond. She simply walked barefoot, her eyes scanning the surroundings in amazement as she made her way down the stairs. When she reached Qin Yang's side, she chose a nearby spot to sit down, remaining silent as she gazed at him. She was staring at him, but Qin Yang was looking at her feet. It wasn't that Qin Yang had any particular foot fetish. He was more curious about the woman walking around barefoot. He wondered if the soles of her feet were as black as a sparrow's. What are you staring at? The woman finally broke the silence. Qin Yang, still fixated on her feet, didn't seem at all embarrassed. He replied with a serious tone. I'm thinking about what happened today. What did you think of? She asked. I think we might have traveled through time. Qin Yang blurted out his theory. Oh, the woman responded casually, as if it was nothing out of the ordinary. Qin Yang was stunned by her calmness. Huh? You're not at all surprised. You think I'm lying to you? The woman shook her head, saying nothing, her thoughts clearly elsewhere. Qin Yang was even more perplexed by her demeanor now. He still couldn't figure out what kind of person she was. Nonetheless, he decided to continue with his theory. I feel like we're from different times. What year were you born? 2006, the woman answered. 2006. Qin Yang was taken aback. 2006. Which house has this kind of decor? He didn't believe her at all. The reason for his doubt was the other half of the room's decor. It looked ancient, but that didn't even do it justice. From the bedroom to the living room, the house didn't have a single modern appliance. It felt as if it had come straight from ancient times. Even if the decor were ancient, you'd expect at least one light bulb, right? If it were 1006, maybe, but 2006 was impossible. However, the woman's next answer made Qin Yang drop his suspicions. I'm from the year 3006. What about you? 3006. Qin Yang was stunned. But then he felt the weight of it. Was this woman from 1,000 years in the future? This room had somehow brought him together with a woman from the future. Qin Yang's mind went blank for a moment. I'm from 2006, 1,000 years earlier than your time. As soon as he said this, Qin Yang could see the woman's expression change. It was clear that she, too, was shocked by this revelation. But she didn't question the truth of Qin Yang's words. Neither of them thought this could be a prank. If someone had the ability to turn a house into something like this without them noticing, they'd have just gone ahead and done it without all the effort. As the woman sank into thought, the two of them fell into silence again. My name is Qin Yang. What's yours? Finally, it was Qin Yang who broke the silence. Ranju, she answered. Oh. Qin Yang was at a loss for words, not sure how to continue. More silence followed. After a long while, Ranju raised her head and looked at Qin Yang, asking, how did you know we're not from the same time? I've seen a similar scenario in a TV show. TV. Ranju tilted her head, clearly confused. Qin Yang, seeing she didn't even know what a TV was momentarily speechless. However, he didn't want to waste time explaining what a TV was, so he simply said. Basically, it's like a dream I once had. Upon hearing this, Ranju seemed a bit skeptical. But Qin Yang didn't mind her disbelief and continued. Basically, we're from different times. And that door, when you open it, leads to your world, while when I open it, it leads to mine. He gestured towards the door nearby. Hearing his words, Ranju's surprise increased, but her expression soon returned to normal. She stood up and walked toward the door. What are you doing? Qin Yang asked in confusion. Going out, Ranju replied curtly. And what about me? Qin Yang was completely confused. You opened the door, don't you? That's your world, Ranju responded, speaking more than usual. However, her words didn't make Qin Yang feel any better. What about this house? Qin Yang asked. I won't be coming back here, Ranju said as she headed for the door. Qin Yang was frustrated. What's going on with this woman? They were from two completely different eras, yet she didn't even seem curious. Didn't she want to see what the world 1,000 years ago was like? His gaze fixed on Ranju, and he realized something: she really wasn't curious at all. In her eyes, there was not a hint of falsehood. It was as if she had no interest in the 21st century whatsoever. As Ranju reached the door, Qin Yang sighed helplessly. Hey, take me to your world, will you? Huh. Ranju stopped and looked at Qin Yang with suspicion. I want to see what the world is like 1,000 years from now, Qin Yang said, expressing his true thoughts. It's dangerous, Ranju responded coldly. Dangerous? Qin Yang paused for a moment, then smiled and said, it's fine. He had an idea of what she meant by dangerous, judging from the room's decor. It was probably like the ancient times' constant warfare. Ranju seemed about to speak but then remembered Qin Yang's conversation with his mother earlier. After thinking for a moment, she said nothing and simply pushed open the door and walked out. Hey, where are you going? Qin Yang quickly followed her. Meanwhile, in the year 3024, outside a villa in the East Sea. Liu Ji, only you would think of waiting outside like this. A young man, about 5 feet 9 inches tall and skinny as a monkey, stood across from Ranju's villa, complimenting the man beside him. The man he was talking to, known as Liu Ji, had a slightly baby-faced appearance. Upon hearing the praise, he smiled and replied. Of course, Ranju is so aloof. If I didn't use unconventional methods, how would I get close? Apparently, in his words, unconventional methods meant waiting outside a girl's house. Chapter 3, Misunderstanding. However, the skinny monkey-like guy continued to praise. Still, Liu Ji is really thoughtful. That girl, Ranju, doesn't know how to reject people. When we follow her, we'll shamelessly ask to team up with her. She won't say anything, and when we're out hunting demon beasts, the atmosphere will definitely heat up, right? After all, Liu Ji, you'll win Ranju, the most sought-after school beauty, who others have been chasing for so long with no results. You're really clever, Liu Ji. Hearing this, Liu Ji's smile grew even wider, because this was exactly what he had been thinking. Although Ranju was cold and distant, she was the type of person who didn't know how to say no. Hunting demon beasts was inherently dangerous, and in dangerous situations, emotions naturally intensified. Many couples in this world had formed after going on a single team-up mission. As long as he could team up with Ranju, getting her to like him would be much easier. At the thought of this, Liu Ji couldn't help but imagine Ranju's perfect, cold face, snuggling up in his arms. His smile grew even wider, harder to suppress. However, just at that moment, they suddenly saw Ranju's front door open. Liu Ji, she's here. The skinny, monkey-like guy said, waving Liu Ji to move forward. Liu Ji didn't need to be reminded. He almost stood up the moment the door opened. Then, he saw that figure he had been dreaming about standing at the door. But before he could say anything, he also noticed a completely unfamiliar face, looking anxious and saying, "Don't rush, I'm not done yet." Qin Yang was helpless. He didn't expect this woman to be so cold and run so fast. Of course, he wanted to see the world 1,000 years from now, but he still hadn't forgotten that his mom had called him earlier about a blind date. Even though he left and his mom wouldn't notice, she would surely come to his house. What if she saw the unusual state of the room? That would be a disaster. Upon hearing Qin Yang's words, Ranju stopped in her tracks, her gaze turning suspicious as she seemed to be contemplating something. "Don't rush. Let me finish what I'm doing here, then I'll go with you. How about it? It'll be about 2 hours or so." Upon hearing this, Ranju turned around to leave. Hey, no, not 2 hours, is half an hour okay? Ranju's steps didn't stop. 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It can't be less than 5 minutes. At this point, Ranju finally stopped walking. Qin Yang hurried forward and held up 5 fingers. "Just 5 minutes. Come back to the room with me, just 5 minutes." As he spoke, Qin Yang gently pulled Ranju toward the room. Ranju clearly understood that he wanted to report to his family, so she didn't resist. She allowed Qin Yang to pull her into the room. Their hands intertwined, and the 2 figures were clearly visible to the 2 men outside. The skinny, monkey-like guy turned toward Liu Ji with a distressed expression. "Liu Ji. Shut up. I haven't said anything yet." The skinny guy looked innocent. "I know what you're going to say." Liu Ji's expression turned grim. "I haven't finished yet. Half an hour. Just 5 minutes. Then they are holding hands and walking into the room. What could they be doing in there?" Although Liu Ji was only 18 and still had a youthful innocence, he knew the basics of what went on between men and women. He never expected that the girl he liked, who he was planning to pursue, had already been taken by someone else without him even getting a chance. And it seemed like they had known each other for a while. Otherwise, with Ranju's personality, she definitely wouldn't have agreed to such an unreasonable request. "What now?" the skinny guy asked. Liu Ji snapped back to reality and gritted his teeth. Wait. Do we have to wait for them to finish?" The skinny guy looked shocked. At this point, they were already this far, and Liu Ji still hadn't given up? "Shut up!" Liu Ji snapped. The skinny guy fell silent, but, seeing that Liu Ji had crouched down, he too squatted beside him. Neither of them spoke, they just silently stared at the door, watching. Meanwhile, inside the room. "Don't rush. My mom called earlier about a blind date. Even though she won't find me at your place, if she comes and sees the state of the room, she'll definitely get suspicious." As Qin Yang spoke, he pointed at the ceiling that looked like it had been chopped by a knife. Hearing this, Ranju nodded but didn't say anything. Qin Yang then picked up his phone, preparing to call his mom, but just as he was about to dial, he hesitated. He looked at Ranju, cautiously asking, "By the way, can you do me a favor?" "What is it?" Ranju asked, puzzled. "Pretend to be my girlfriend." Upon hearing this, Ranju was silent, though the shock in her eyes was hard to hide. Qin Yang's request was somewhat bold. "We're from different worlds, right? I'll just visit your world to see what it's like. You just need to pretend once, and it's not like you need to do anything. This way, I'll feel more at ease when I go there with you, right? After hearing this, Ranju didn't immediately respond. She fell into thought. Qin, seeing this, didn't rush her. He waited quietly. After what seemed like an eternity, Ranju finally nodded. Seeing her nod, Qin's face lit up. He quickly took out his phone and dialed his mom's number. As soon as it connected, his mom's furious voice came through. Qin, you dare hang up on me? I'm already on my way with your dad. You better clean your neck and wait at home for me. Hearing this, Qin was speechless. He thought, as expected, but quickly said, "Why are you coming over? To see how I'm living with my girlfriend? What do you mean coming over? Don't you know about the blind date? I told you if you don't find a girlfriend." Wait, what? Girlfriend? Yeah, my girlfriend's right here. I'll have her say something to you. Qin said as he handed the phone to Ranju. At first, Ranju hesitated, but when she saw the urgency in Qin's eyes, she softly said, "Hello, auntie?" On the other end, there was a brief silence, followed by a louder roar. "Turn off that voice changer. Do you think I don't know about this stuff? It's not a voice changer." Hearing this, Qin almost exploded. He immediately raised his voice. Video call, video call. Chapter 4, The Magic World. Without further ado, Qin immediately opened a video call with his mother. As soon as the call was connected, both Qin and Ranju appeared on the screen. Since they occupied the entire screen, the strange situation in the room was not visible in the video. Well, you really found her. A woman who appeared to be in her 20s but still exuded charm appeared on the video screen. Seeing this woman, Ranju was slightly surprised. From her voice, she had expected Qin's mother to be one of those tough, loud types, but instead, she was a graceful and elegant woman who looked like she hadn't aged a day. That's obvious. Qin's tone was exactly like his mother's. "What's your name, dear?" Upon hearing Qin's mother's question, Ranju quickly reacted and said, "Ranju. How long have you two known each other?" Hearing this, Ranju instinctively glanced at Qin, but he was staring at the screen, showing no signs of giving her any hints. It wasn't that he didn't want to help, but he knew his mother too well. If he gave any hints, his mother wouldn't believe him. She could even identify a voice changer. "We've only just met recently," Ranju replied, bracing herself. I see. Where are you from?" Qin's mother continued her interrogation. "Enough, Mom. Stop with the registration questions. I already said we just met." Qin was slightly annoyed. He had expected his mother to yell back, but to his surprise, she smiled apologetically. Look at me. Alright then, I won't disturb your little world. I've got something to talk to Qin about. Millimeter. Ranju nodded in response but didn't leave. She stood there silently. Qin's mother, however, didn't seem to care. She turned directly to Qin and said, "Since you've just met, take her out and have some fun. Get to know each other better." "Yeah, we were planning to go out, but I was afraid you'd disturb us." Qin said, half joking. "Of course not, you can relax. I won't disturb you. By the way, have you spent all the 3 million I gave you? If not, let me know, I'll transfer more." Seeing his mother act so sweet and cheerful, as if a different person, Qin knew it was because Ranju was there. "Yeah, it's enough," Qin replied. "Good, I won't keep you. Bye now." Without another word, Qin ended the call. "Is it okay now?" Ranju asked, her face expressionless as she looked at Qin. Yes. Now it's perfect." Qin laughed, letting out a sigh of relief. With his mom out of the picture, he could finally relax and explore the other world. The two of them then walked to the door. Ranju reached out and opened it. Creak. The door opened, revealing the year 3024. "Hey, Liu Ji, they are out. They are out." Hearing the door creak, the skinny guy jumped up immediately. But as soon as he stood up, he saw Liu Ji dart out like an arrow. At the door of the room, Qin asked, "So, where are we going next?" Having just arrived in this world, he was ready to follow Ranju's lead. Before Ranju could answer, an untimely voice rang out. Ranju, this guy looks unfamiliar. Where is he from? Qin Yang turned around and saw a man with a square face and a skinny, dog-like figure walking toward him. Standing at 1.85 meters tall and having a strong physique from years of training, Qin Yang could tell this person resembled a skinny dog without hesitation. Ranju didn't answer either the question about the next destination or the one about the man. Seeing Ranju's behavior, Qin Yang asked in confusion, "What is going on? Is he your boyfriend?" Upon hearing Qin Yang's question, Liu Qing's expression softened a little. Although Liu Qing wasn't Ranju's boyfriend, he had been infatuated with her for a long time. Anyone asking if he was her boyfriend would make him happy, even if they had just done something inappropriate in the room earlier. But then the image of the two of them in the room made Liu Qing's expression turn dark once again. Just as he was about to shout at Qin Yang, he heard Ranju speak calmly. He should be a classmate. Ranju's tone was so calm, as if she had no recollection of the person in front of her. Upon hearing this, Liu Qing felt a sharp pang in his heart. Particularly those two words, should be. But he also understood that Ranju was telling the truth. There were so many people chasing after her in school, and he was never the most prominent one. It was not surprising if they were not familiar with each other. "Oh, a classmate," Qin Yang said with a sudden realization. He then asked, "So where are we going next?" Though he hadn't crossed into another world before, Qin Yang had read enough novels to know the extra characters that appear in the first chapter. He didn't even want to waste time on such people. "We're going for a magic awakening," Ranju said, still indifferent. It was as if the appearance of a stranger had no effect on her at all. Hearing this, Qin Yang was stunned. A magic awakening. Wasn't this supposed to be a world set 1,000 years later? While he acknowledged that technology had declined and the buildings looked a bit shabby, how did magic awakening come into play? Could it be that this world had transformed into a magical one? Qin Yang couldn't help but speculate in his mind. And then, Ranju's words seemed to confirm his guess. Everyone here has to undergo a magic awakening. Without magic, it's very hard to survive in this world. Their conversation had been heard clearly by Liu Qing. Originally, Liu Qing was somewhat worried when Qin Yang ignored him. He feared that Qin Yang might be from a prominent family. But when he heard that Qin Yang had no magic awakening and was completely clueless about it, Liu Qing's anger flared up visibly. "Kid, are you ignoring me?" Facing Liu Qing's fury, Qin Yang just glanced at him and turned back to Ranju. "So, should I go for an awakening right now?" Millimeter. Ranju still ignored Liu Qing. Seeing how they were completely disregarding him, Liu Qing's face turned as dark as thunderclouds. He was about to speak when Qin Yang looked back at him again. "By the way, what level is that guy?" "Second tier, fire mage," Ranju replied quietly. "Huh? Aren't you unfamiliar with him?" Qin Yang asked, surprised. "I can sense it," Ranju answered. "Oh, I see." Qin Yang said, now understanding everything. So, this world was a magical one. No wonder Ranju had said it was dangerous here. With magic, there must be terrifying beasts just like in those novels. Of course, an ordinary person coming to this world would be in danger. But now that Qin Yang understood everything, he wasn't frightened at all. In fact, he was more excited than ever. Chapter 5, A New Method. It is important to note that Qin Yang had already reached the peak of the Dark Realm. To advance further seemed nearly impossible, akin to climbing to the heavens. After all, at such a level, merely relying on physical training would be insufficient for a breakthrough. To make progress, one had to engage in long-term battles, pushing oneself beyond limits through combat. However, in the harmonious society of the 21st century, seeking out battles was hardly an easy feat. He had already challenged all the martial arts families, and their strength was several levels below his. As for his father, although Qin Yang could not defeat him, the gap between them was so wide that a breakthrough seemed exceptionally difficult. This magical world, however, seemed to present an opportunity for him to find a breakthrough. Even someone like him, a martial arts prodigy, would be thrilled by the prospect of crossing into a magical world. Let alone an ordinary person, such a scenario would excite them immensely. The more Qin Yang thought about it, the more his expression grew excited. As for Liu Qing, The thin monkey glanced at Qin Yang, then at Liu Qing. Big brother, he really seems to be ignoring you, the thin monkey observed. Shut up. I'm just saying the truth, big brother. I know, shut up. Liu Qing shouted. If the thin monkey weren't his lackey, Liu Qing would have loved to just deal with him. Didn't he see that he had just acted like a clown and got ignored by Qin Yang? Yet here the thin monkey was, adding fuel to the fire. Liu Qing didn't care about him and didn't want to look at him either. The thin monkey, still confused, looked at Liu Qing with a bewildered expression as if asking, "Oh, did I say something wrong?" Liu Qing's face was a deep shade of anger, but he remained silent. Originally, he had come to invite Daiju to join him in a team to hunt magical beasts, but upon seeing Qin Yang, he felt betrayed. He wanted to teach Qin Yang a lesson, this guy who appeared out of nowhere and had stolen his goddess away. However, after the thin monkey caused a ruckus, Liu Qing couldn't muster the energy to teach Qin Yang a lesson. Feeling helpless, he approached Daiju and clarified his intention. Daiju, I heard you're going to hunt magical beasts in the wilderness today. How about we team up? Daiju glanced at Liu Qing, then turned her gaze away. No need. Her tone was just as indifferent as it was when speaking to Qin Yang. Liu Qing, however, seemed to have already gotten used to this and forced a bitter smile. Come on, I've been waiting here for a while. Also, I heard that Wang Rui is coming to trouble you. If we team up, it could save you a lot of trouble. Wang Rui. Hearing this unfamiliar name, Qin Yang felt a little curious, but before he could respond, Daiju remained cold as ever. I said no need. You? Liu Qing was speechless. Daiju then bypassed Liu Qing and walked directly toward the villa's exit. Only Liu Qing, standing there with a bitter expression, was left behind. Qin Yang, seeing this, said nothing and followed Daiju out. Though their conversation had been brief, Qin Yang had gathered enough of the situation. It seemed that Wang Rui had some sort of grudge against Daiju, and Daiju likely didn't have much of a background. Liu Qing, therefore, was trying to use this opportunity to get closer to her. But Qin Yang didn't care. While Daiju was indeed beautiful, he wasn't the kind of person who would lose focus just because of a pretty girl. Right now, what mattered to him was awakening his magic ability. The two of them left, and only Liu Qing, with a forlorn expression, and the thin monkey, stood there. Liu Qing stared at the receding figures of Qin Yang and Daiju, and suddenly, the thin monkey approached him. Noticing this, Liu Qing's face immediately darkened. Shut up. I haven't said anything yet. The thin monkey almost started crying. I know what you're going to say. Liu Qing scolded him again. The thin monkey looked aggrieved and decided to remain silent. But seeing that Liu Qing stood there without moving, he couldn't hold back anymore and asked, Boss, what should we do next? Let's go, follow them. Liu Qing gritted his teeth. Follow them. The thin monkey looked stunned. Even though Daiju had made her refusal clear, why keep following them? Wasn't this asking for trouble? Wang Rui will definitely not give up. We'll follow them, and if Daiju needs help, I'll lend a hand. Upon hearing this, the thin monkey almost cried. Boss, what are you hoping for? Okay, she might not have a partner, so it's understandable, but she already has one now. The guy is handsome too. Just look at them together, they're like a match made in heaven. Saying this, the thin monkey pointed toward the two figures that had not yet disappeared around the corner, completely oblivious to Liu Qing's furious expression. Look at him, he's got a better body than you, and he's good looking. He's about the same height as Daiju too. They are a perfect match, big brother. With this situation, I don't even know how you're going to pursue her. As he spoke, the thin monkey seemed to realize something, and his voice grew softer, almost inaudible by the end. Turning to look, Liu Qing's face was a mixture of anger and fury. His hands were already gathering fire magic, ready to unleash his wrath. Yes. While Liu Qing had held back when he was with his goddess, now, facing his lackey, he wanted nothing more than to kill him. Seeing Liu Qing like this, the thin monkey quickly changed the subject, panic rising within him. Big brother, should we follow them now, or else they'll be out of sight? Hearing this, Liu Qing finally snapped out of his fury. Noticing that Qin Yang and Daiju were about to disappear around the corner, he dropped the fire magic from his hands and shouted at the thin monkey. Let us go. With that,
Liu Qing ignored the thin monkey and rushed after them.
The thin monkey, seeing this, breathed a sigh of relief. Wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, he followed Liu Qing closely. On the other side, Qin Yang, following Daiju, felt more and more excited. The gap between him and his father wasn't something that could be closed quickly. To surpass his father would take decades, at least. After all, rapid progress required practical combat experience. However, the 21st century was a peaceful era, and the martial arts families lacked the strength to offer the real combat experience he needed. His father was simply too strong, and fighting him would be meaningless. But now, it was different. Not only could he face magical beasts to improve his combat ability, but he could also awaken magic, gaining an entirely new way to grow stronger. At this moment, Qin Yarn even imagined himself defeating his father. Lost in these thoughts, Qin Yarn suddenly realized that they had reached the magic awakening location. You go inside to awaken your magic. I'll wait here, Daiju told Qin Yarn and then stood at the door with a stern expression. Qin Yarn, now somewhat accustomed to Daiju's temperament, nodded silently without saying anything, then walked into the room. Chapter 6 Awakening. After entering the room, Qin Yarn saw the scene in the room. In the center of the room, there is a chandelier. Through the weak light, you can see that there is a rectangular table under the chandelier. Inside the table, there is an old man standing there. When the old man noticed someone coming in, he spoke without looking up. Are you here for magic awakening? Yes. Qin Yang replied. Then let's start directly. The old man still didn't look up. Here? Qin Yang was surprised. There is only a table right now, nothing else, how can you awaken? Hearing Qin Yang's words, the old man also looked up in surprise and looked at Qin Yang. You don't know. Magic awakening, this is something that has been taught in textbooks since childhood. No matter whether it is the first time or the nth time to come here for awakening, the basic process must be familiar to everyone. After all, no one in this world does not want to become a magician. But the one who came today seemed to know nothing about magic. Of course I don't know. Qin Yang answered naturally, without any shame. Looking at Qin Yang's expression, the old man was speechless. Let's register first. Oh. Qin Yang nodded, and then came to the old man. When Qin Yang approached, the old man's voice sounded again. First awakening, right? Yes. How old? The old man asked again. 20, Qin Yang answered. 20. Hearing this, the old man looked up again, picked up his reading glasses and looked at Qin Yang with a surprised face. You first awakened when you were 20 years old. Are you asking about age? Oh, then 18. Qin Yang answered. The old man was also speechless for Qin Yang's answer, and then frowned and asked. Why did you awaken so late? The best awakening age for a normal person is 15 years old, and at the age of 18, a normal person is basically a first-level magician who can master magic proficiently. A genius can even reach the third level. Awakening at the age of 18 is a bit late. Why so late? You can't say you just came here today, right? After thinking for a while, Qin Yang quickly answered. I don't know. Then, the old man was speechless again, and then pointed to one of the small rooms in the room with an impatient look and said. Go in directly, there is an awakening stone inside, just put your hand on it and wait for a while. For this inexplicable little guy, the old man didn't want to say a word. Seeing this, Qin Yang was also happy to be free, and followed the old man's instructions and entered a small room in the room. At the same time, outside the awakening room, Ranju waited quietly, looking at the sky, wondering what she was thinking, but then, an inappropriate voice sounded in her ears. Hey, isn't this our civilian school beauty? Why don't you go hunt monsters and stay here? The sudden voice made Ranju stunned for a moment. She turned her head and saw a woman in a light yellow dress. There were 3 tall men behind her. When she saw this group of people, Ranju withdrew her gaze with a bored look. This person was Huang Rui mentioned by Liu Qing. Huang Rui was about 1.6 meters tall, and she was a middle to upper level beauty in the entire East China Sea. However, standing in front of Ranju, she looked a lot dimmer. Even the 3 men behind her couldn't help but focus their eyes on Ranju. Huang Rui seemed to have noticed the gazes of the 3 men behind him. He was very unhappy, but he did not attack the people behind him. Instead, he continued to look at Ranju and said, "What's wrong? You are so cool in school. You should have a lot of suitors. Why don't you just find a few people to team up with?" At this point, Huang Rui looked as if he had suddenly realized something. Are you worried that after finding someone, your goddess persona will not stand up? Hearing this, Ranju did not even turn her eyes, just standing there quietly. This calm and indifferent look made Huang Rui a little uncomfortable. You don't know why you pretend to be a cool goddess every day. It's disgusting to look at you. You don't know who you are pretending to be a white lotus for. Do you think that this way you can enter the perspective of the powerful children of Donghai and marry into a wealthy family in the future? Huang Rui's words were very unpleasant. Even the men behind him couldn't stand it anymore, and someone immediately spoke up. "Huang Rui, isn't that a bit too much?" "I am too much. Look at her, she's a white lotus." When Huang Rui heard that the person he brought was standing on Ranju's side, he was furious. He scolded and pointed at Ranju, who was standing there without saying anything. The men looked at each other, but didn't say anything. But everyone's face revealed a little helplessness. Is it okay for them to not say anything? But they also knew that Huang Rui was usually unhappy with Ranju, and they came here to support Huang Rui today, so it was not good to continue speaking. However, they didn't speak, but Ranju spoke up. "You came here today just to say this." Ranju's tone was calm, and there was no sign of anger at all. However, such a tone made Huang Rui feel a little irritated. But thinking of the purpose of coming here today, Huang Rui's mood suddenly improved a lot, and he sneered. "I came here today because Master Lin wanted me to come and invite you to hunt monsters together and discuss tactics. Master Lin couldn't come because of something, so he asked me to call you." However, as soon as the voice fell, Ranju said coldly, "No. No." As if he had known that Ranju would answer like this, Huang Rui showed a treacherous smile on his face. "It's not up to you. To put it bluntly, your White Lotus personality is still very successful. Master Lin likes you, but you have to go today, whether you want to or not." As he said, Huang Rui waved to the boys behind him. The three men behind him immediately stepped forward and prepared to take Ranju away by force. Seeing the three people coming, Ranju frowned and subconsciously took a step back. However, just when the three were about to come to Ranju, a scolding voice came from a distance. "What are you guys doing? Are you going to take me away by force if I don't agree?" As soon as these words came out, the three people stopped almost at the same time and looked at the source of the voice. Not only them, Huang Rui also looked at the person who spoke. Then two figures appeared in the sight of the four people. When he saw the two people coming, Huang Rui sneered. "What? Liu Qing, do you want to be a hero to save the beauty?" The people who came were none other than Liu Qing and Shouhou, who were squatting outside the door of Ranju Villa before. Chapter 7 Gifted. In the room, Qin Yang had no idea what was happening outside. At this time, he was looking at his right hand with joy. "Have I awakened successfully?" In his right hand, there was a purple lightning making a crackling sound. "This is thunder." Even though he knew this was a magical world, even though he knew he was awakening magic. But when he saw the lightning circling around his palm like a pet, Qin Yang's face was full of uncontrollable excitement. "If this happens to my father," Qin Yang thought to himself, and even had a picture of a duel with his father in his mind. He attacked, his father blocked, and then he released a thunderbolt. The picture was so beautiful that Qin Yang laughed out loud as he thought about it. He squeezed hard with his right hand. The lightning in his hand suddenly disappeared. Qin Yang opened the door and walked out. The old man took off his glasses and looked at Qin Yang. "How is it? What did you awaken?" "Thunder system." Qin Yang was still immersed in the imagination of defeating his father. When he said this, he still had a smile on his face. The old man didn't feel strange when he saw this, and said immediately, "You're lucky. The thunder system is a powerful attack system whether in the early or late stages. This is your first awakening. Go back and control the magic well. When you can condense the magic in your palm and release it, you will be a real first-level magician." After the old man finished speaking, he thought Qin Yang would say something, but when he found that the other party didn't move at all, he immediately looked up. Then, he saw Qin Yang standing there. "What?" The old man frowned and was a little confused. Then he saw Qin Yang stretched out his right hand, and then a lightning appeared in his palm. The moment he saw the lightning, the old man's pupils shrank slightly, and his face was covered with a strong shock.
You can release magic just after awakening? What kind of monster are you? Qin Yang was still at a loss. I don't know either.
The old man couldn't help but walk out from behind the table and came to Qin Yang's side. He first circled around Qin Yang, and then came to Qin Yang, looking at the lightning in Qin Yang's hand and asked, "Is this the limit of your control?"
Limit? What do you mean? Qin Yang was puzzled.
So, you release your lightning system to the maximum, and then release it to that board for me to see. Qin Yang looked in the direction the old man pointed, and there was a wooden dummy there. Seeing this scene, Qin Yang did not hesitate, and directly cut off the lightning in his hand, and then began to condense a new lightning. Seeing Qin Yang cut off the lightning without saying a word, the old man's pupils suddenly bulged. But before he could say anything, a sound of breaking through the air came to his ears. Swoosh! Boom! Qin Yang controlled the lightning and threw it at the dummy with great precision, followed by an explosion. Qin Yang saw that the seemingly defenseless dummy stood there as if nothing had happened after experiencing a lightning strike.
My, so weak.
Weak! The old man blew his beard in anger. This magic stake can resist all elemental magic below the 3rd level. You, a young man who has just awakened, do you want to break it? Is that so? Qin Yang suddenly realized that this magic could not even break a wooden stake, but it turned out that there was a special routine. But what's wrong with you? The old man looked at Qin Yang with a puzzled look. How can you not only release magic after just awakening, but also take it back directly? And you don't need to guide magic when you release it.
What do you mean? Qin Yang didn't quite understand what the old man said.
The old man wanted to explain, but he didn't know where to start.
Wait a minute.
The old man held his forehead, and after carefully organizing his thoughts, he looked at Qin Yang and said, "The normal awakening process is mainly to determine your own magic system." Well, Qin Yang didn't know what the old man wanted to express. The old man continued to talk to himself. Then you need to chant and guide, slowly get familiar with magic, and then you can release magic. After all, the human body is relatively fragile. If you release magic directly without getting familiar with it and chanting, it will cause great damage to the body. This is why magic needs to be awakened at the age of 15, because the body cannot withstand the impact of magic when you are too young. When you are familiar with it to a certain extent, the magic can be controlled freely. This is also a sign of entering the 2nd level, but you have just awakened. How can you achieve what only a 2nd level magician can do? After the old man finished speaking, he looked at Qin Yang with a puzzled look. Qin Yang half understood and said, "Maybe my body is strong enough to bear this." The old man frowned when he heard this. "No reason, by the way, how old did you say you were?"
20. I asked about age.
The old man roared angrily.
Oh, 18.
Qin Yang didn't dare to be naughty anymore. The old man had white hair now, and if he continued to be naughty, he might be naughty. Hearing this, the old man also calmed down, then took a deep breath and continued, 18 years old, 3 years late. Although the physical strength is stronger than 15 years old, it is not much stronger. It is impossible to withstand the impact of magic when you first awaken. Hearing this, Qin Yang almost understood. It turns out that he has been practicing martial arts since he was a child, and he also gave himself magic cheats. Of course, Qin Yang must not let the old man know about this kind of thing. After thinking about it, Qin Yang said casually, "Maybe I am gifted. Born with supernatural power." Born with supernatural power. The old man looked at Qin Yang half doubtfully. Maybe it is possible, but how strong is the body to reach this level when it first awakens? Oh.
Qin Yang had no way to answer this.
Well, try to hit me. The old man said to Qin Yang.
Me?
Hit you? Qin Yang widened his eyes, a little unbelievable. Well, try. The old man said firmly. But what if I beat you to death? Qin Yang was a little worried. Hearing this, the old man was furious. Who do you think you are, kid? Do you think I, an old man, have lived to an age and have been eating dry food? You want to kill? It's your ability to hurt me. Oh? Is that so? Qin Yang was a little uneasy about the old man's words. Of course, hit me with all your strength. I want to see how strong your physical strength is. You can reach this level when you first awaken. If you have a clear concept of this, their whole magic world will take a big step forward. The old man said, getting a little excited. Then he looked at Qin Yang and said, "Little guy, don't worry, hit me with all your strength." Qin Yang saw that the old man was so persistent, so he didn't refuse, and then said, "Then I try."
Come on.
The old man got ready. Qin Yang, on the other hand, withdrew his right foot slightly, then swung his legs into a bow step, and then the whole person jumped out like a meteor. Chapter 8 Take Action.
Hey, old man, old man.
Qin Yang looked at the old man who had fallen to the ground and was sweating profusely. He hurriedly put his finger in front of the old man's nose, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. He's still alive. As he breathed a sigh of relief, Qin Yang lifted the old man up again, and then put him on the chair behind the table, letting him sit there. Seeing the old man sitting steadily, as if he would not fall, Qin Yang said helplessly, "What kind of person is this? I thought he could withstand a lot of beatings, and he used all his strength, but he couldn't even withstand 30% of his strength." Qin Yang saw that the old man didn't know his background, so of course he didn't use all his strength. But he didn't expect the old man to lie down like this. But fortunately, nothing happened. If it were in the 21st century, you would have to squat in the orange if you beat someone to death. After the old man was settled, Qin Yang recalled what the old man said before. Obviously, he was a little different from other magicians, and it was very likely that all this was related to his martial arts training since childhood. It seems that after practicing martial arts, learning magic is also a disguised way of cheating. Qin Yang smiled and then planned to leave. Although he was still full of doubts in his heart, it didn't matter. Isn't Ranju still outside? When we go to hunt monsters together, we can ask. Thinking, Qin Yang walked out of the magic awakening place. At the same time, outside the door, Liu Qing was gritting his teeth and looking at Wang Rui, who looked smug. Looking at Liu Qing like this, Wang Rui sneered. "Every day, you don't know what you are pretending to be here without any skills. Do you really think that a second-level fire system is so outstanding? You really think you are the big brother after taking a fool as your younger brother? Today, young Master Lin is looking for Ranju, why don't you try to stop her?" Looking at Wang Rui's arrogant look, Liu Qing wanted to go up and slap her hard. But he didn't dare. The reason was exactly the young Master Lin that Wang Rui had just mentioned. This young Master Lin transferred from Kyoto, specifically for Ranju. It is said that his family has a great background in Kyoto. Apart from all these backgrounds, this young Master Lin is a third-level space-based expert. Rare, and third level. Those who have reached the third level in the third year of high school are simply rare, not to mention the rare system. He simply cannot afford to offend such an existence. So after hearing about young Master Lin, Liu Qing did not even dare to think of stopping him. The usually talkative skinny monkey on the side also rarely spoke, standing there in silence, not knowing what he was thinking. Looking at the two of them like this, Wang Rui sneered, and then walked towards Ranju. When he walked in front of Ranju, Wang Rui asked with a haughty look, "What do you think? Young Master Lin invites you, do you want to go, or not?" Ranju just looked at Wang Rui coldly, without saying anything, and then acted as if it had nothing to do with him. Seeing Ranju like this, Wang Rui seemed to have known it for a long time, and suddenly a smile appeared on his face, but soon the smile disappeared without a trace, replaced by anger. "You are so shameless, you really think you are something, you ignored Lin Xiao's invitation, and you don't even know to find a mirror to look at yourself." While speaking, Wang Rui stretched out his right hand and rushed directly towards Ranju. Seeing Wang Rui attacking without explanation, Liu Qing's expression tightened and wanted to step forward. But after thinking of what Wang Rui said just now, Liu Qing's expression tightened again. After struggling for a few times, he finally took back the foot that had stepped out. Aware of Liu Qing's actions, Wang Rui looked at Ranju again, with a playful smile on her face. She had long disliked this Ranju. Especially his calm face no matter what happened. As if he didn't care about anything, his otherworldly appearance made all the other boys in the school fascinated by him. She was going to give Ranju a hard slap to see if he would still be as aloof as he is now after being slapped. However, just as Wang Rui's palm was about to touch Ranju's cheek, a broad and calloused hand reached out and grabbed Wang Rui's wrist. Snap! Who? The sudden scene made Wang Rui's face change.
When she looked up, she saw a very handsome man holding her wrist high. This man was Qin Yang. Qin Yang had a perfect figure because of his long-term martial arts training. With his outstanding appearance, he stood out even among the male models. He appeared in front of Huang Rui at this time, directly attracting all of Huang Rui's attention. Looking at Qin Yang's face close at hand, Huang Rui even had a picture in his mind. Qin Yang pushed her against the wall, and then said to her in a magnetic voice, "Woman, you are playing with fire tilde tilde." Thinking of this, Huang Rui even forgot what she was doing now, and couldn't help closing her eyes. Then, Qin Yang's magnetic and slightly angry voice appeared in her ears. "Why don't you fight back?" Huang Rui suddenly opened her eyes and found that the man in front of her was not talking to her, but asking Ranju. Seeing that the man she fell in love with at first sight was also standing up for Ranju, Huang Rui's anger suddenly rose in her heart, and the whole person began to struggle constantly. Now she urgently wanted to slap Ranju. Even before, she didn't have such a strong idea in her heart. At this time, she felt that Ranju had taken her man away. However, no matter how hard she tried, the strong hand was not shaken at all. Before she could speak, Ranju's voice also sounded. "Magic is prohibited in the city." Qin Yang was stunned for a moment after hearing Ranju's words. Obviously, he didn't know there was such a rule. After all, it was not mentioned in the magic novels in his previous life. But then, Qin Yang frowned. "Why don't you hide? Magic can't be used. If 3 men can't beat a woman, then you can always run away if you can't beat her, right? Hide, then what?" Ranju finally set his eyes on Qin Yang. Hearing this, Qin Yang was stunned again. He understood what Ranju meant in his eyes. You can dodge an attack, but what about the next one? Facing such a formation, even if you hide, you can't dodge many times. If you are not allowed to use magic, she is just a woman and can't beat the people in front of her. But Qin Yang soon came to his senses and looked at Ranju and said earnestly, "Hide, wait for me to come out." "Then what?" Ranju still asked like this. However, this time, Qin Yang smiled, with a hint of arrogance in his smile. Then, after the words fell, Qin Yang exerted a little force with his right hand, and Huang Rui flew into the air. Then Qin Yang turned his body slightly to the left, twisting his waist and lifting his legs. Bang! Swoosh! Then Huang Rui flew backwards like a cannonball. Chapter 9: Help You Resist. Huang Rui never thought that she felt she was in love just now, and she was broken up the next second. The boy she fell in love with at first sight actually kicked her in the stomach. Then she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Then, boom! Smoke and dust rose. Everyone present was stunned. When the smoke and dust dissipated, they saw Huang Rui lying there like a dead dog, with his face almost covered with blood. Seeing Huang Rui's miserable state, everyone looked at Qin Yang in shock again, and didn't know what to say for a moment. Ranju was also surprised. She asked for the second time just now, and then, she wanted to ask Qin Yang, what's the point of finding Qin Yang in this situation? But Qin Yang gave her the answer immediately. But such an answer really shocked her. She didn't want to hide because there were 2 boys on the opposite side, and there was no point in hiding, and she would be caught if she ran, so she simply ignored it. But this is a magical world after all, and boys are stronger than girls, but there are limits. Who would kick someone out like Qin Yang? Even if it was a monster, it would be like this, right? Qin Yang's brutal attack caused silence in the field. Everyone stared at Qin Yang in amazement. It was unknown how long it had been, and finally a voice sounded. "Fuck, so awesome, boss, luckily you didn't mess with this guy just now." The one who spoke was the skinny monkey who had been following Liu Qing. At this moment, Liu Qing was also very grateful. Just now, when he saw this man and Ranju together, he did have the intention to take action. However, because the skinny monkey was too talkative, he finally forgot about it. So, it seems that he should thank the skinny monkey? Thinking of this, Liu Qing glanced at the skinny monkey beside him and shuddered. The skinny monkey seemed to have telepathy and spoke without turning his head. "You're welcome, boss." Hiss. Liu Qing took a breath of cold air, but he didn't curse after all. He looked at the scene quietly, especially the 2 people who followed Huang Ruilai. He wanted to know how this matter would end next. He knew the 2 people who followed Huang Ruilai. They were Lin Xiao's lackeys.
Lin Xiao is from Kyoto, and his background is very powerful. Qin Yang not only attacked Wang Rui, but also beat Wang Rui so hard, which is undoubtedly a slap in Lin Xiao's face. Will these two lackeys give up? Do you know that Wang Rui was called by Lin Xiao, and you dare to hit Lin Xiao's people? One of them pointed at Qin Yang and spoke tremblingly, his eyes full of fear and disbelief. However, facing this person's words, Qin Yang just sneered coldly. Lin Xiao. Turn around and look at Ranju with a questioning face. Who is Lin Xiao? Qin Yang did not deliberately cover up his voice, so that everyone present could hear it. Everyone was speechless for a while. Originally thought that Qin Yang knew Lin Xiao's background, but was just not afraid. I didn't expect that he was a young man who didn't even know Lin Xiao. Ranju, who knew Qin Yang's background, was not surprised at Qin Yang's doubts. She recovered from her initial shock and opened her mouth to say something, but the words didn't come out. Just when Qin Yang felt speechless, a voice came over. Boss, Lin Xiao is Lin Feng from our school. It is said that he came from Kyoto. He is a third-level space mage. Not only does he have a strong background, but he is also very powerful. Qin Yang turned his head and saw that it was Shou Hu. Looking at this lackey who appeared at the door of Ranju Villa at the beginning, Qin Yang did not emit much malice. Instead, he chuckled when he heard Shou Hu's words. Heh, third-level space mage. Looking at Qin Yang's indifferent look, the two people who followed Wang Rui changed from being speechless to being cautious. Not to mention the background, the third-level space mage, is it not taken seriously by this man? However, how could they know that Qin Yang's chuckle was because magic was not allowed in the city? If magic cannot be used, what's wrong with the third-level space mage? The ninth-level mage has to kowtow before leaving. Of course, Qin Yang also knew that according to the laws in the novel, if he really reached the ninth level, he would not be able to follow this rule of not using magic and let himself be beaten. But that was the ninth level. If this Lin Xiao really came, Qin Yang would make sure to let him know why the flowers were so red. After coming back to his senses, Qin Yang glanced at the two men who were watching him cautiously and said provocatively, "Are you going to stand up for that woman, or get out now?" The two men, who were already frightened by Qin Yang's attitude, dared not stay any longer. They immediately said that they would not fight anymore. Then, under the gaze of everyone, they came to Wang Rui, and then worked together to lift Wang Rui, who was already covered in blood, and then left with some effort. When the two left, only Ranju, Qin Yang, Liu Qing and Shou Hu were left in the field. In fact, you don't need to cause these unnecessary troubles for me. Ranju, who didn't like to talk very much, spoke. Obviously, she didn't know how to refute Qin Yang's then. However, as soon as the words fell, Ranju suddenly felt a pair of hands pressing on her shoulders. Then, Qin Yang lowered his head slightly and said to Ranju solemnly, "Trouble? I just want to tell you that if you are bullied in school, you have to fight back, understand?" Ranju wanted to speak, but Qin Yang did not give her the opportunity. If you don't resist, she won't resist, then it will encourage her arrogance. It can be said that she can slap you in front of so many people like now, because those people don't resist. Of course I know you can't resist now, so I'm helping you resist now. In other words, am I helping you? I'm helping those poor students who are bullied and have no power. Qin Yang became more and more excited as he spoke, and at the end he was even more righteous, with a spirit of, if I don't go to hell, who will go to hell? Liu Qing watched Qin Yang's passionate speech from a distance, with mixed feelings in his heart. However, at this time, the skinny monkey who had run to Qin Yang had come back without knowing when, and whispered in his ear. "Brother, is he pretending to be cool?" "Shut up." Although Liu Qing was panicked, his voice was very low, for fear that Qin Yang would hear their conversation. Although they were stronger than Wang Rui, he felt that even the two of them could not withstand Qin Yang's kick without using magic. Wouldn't it be courting death to say this at this time? The skinny monkey didn't know why the boss got angry again, and stood there with a wronged look on his face without saying anything. As for Ranju, after hearing Qin Yang's words, Ranju seemed to be moved, and his expression was finally not as cold as before, but fell into a period of contemplation. After an unknown amount of time. Let's set off first. This time, Ranju's voice was not as cold as before, but soft, with an impulse that made people feel love and pity. Chapter 10: The Peculiarity of Qin Yang's Magic. The two left, ignoring Liu Qing and Shou Hu.
Liu Qing and Shou Hu just watched the two quietly as they left their side and walked towards the city gate. Brother, what shall we do next? Shall we chase after them? Why chase after them? Liu Qing said unhappily, looking so depressed. He started chasing to see if there was any chance to show off. But Qin Yang's actions made him lose the idea of showing off. He dared not move in the face of Wang Rui's threat, but what about Qin Yang? He didn't ask about his background, and kicked Wang Rui to the point of being dead or alive. If there wasn't a more powerful healing mage, Wang Rui would probably die soon. The difference in performance between the two made even him feel helpless. Even if Ranju was as hard-hearted as he would be melted, right? The most important thing was that it was Lin Feng who was targeting Ranju now. Facing this young master of the Lin family, he really had no intention of resisting. Who cares? Let's catch up and see. At this time, Shou Hu changed his usual image of a younger brother and directly pulled Liu Qing to follow. Liu Qing opened his mouth wide, wanting to say something, but in the end he didn't say anything, and was pulled by Shou Hu to follow. How is the magic awakening going? Perhaps it was because Qin Yang had just stood up for her, or perhaps it was because of what Qin Yang had just said that touched her. At this time, Ranju began to care about Qin Yang for the first time. Oh, that old man said I was a little strange. Qin Yang replied. Strange? Why is it strange? Ranju was a little curious. Normal magic awakening is to awaken a system, and then come out. Waiting to become familiar with the condensation of magic, and when you really release a magic, you will officially become a first-level magician. That's. Then Qin Yang told Ranju everything that happened in the room. Although Qin Yang, who had read many novels, knew that he had to keep some cards in this world, Ranju was the person he trusted most in this world, so Qin Yang did not hide anything. Of course, Qin Yang did not say a word about the incident of almost beating the old man to death. At first, when he heard that Qin Yang had awakened the thunder system, Ranju nodded calmly. After all, in the first level, the thunder system is the most powerful system. Not only is the attack powerful, but the attack also has a certain paralysis effect. Even if it is only the first level, compared with the same level, the thunder system is indeed the most outstanding system. But when he heard that Qin Yang could not only release magic directly, but also dissipate magic at any time, Ranju stopped immediately. What's wrong? Qin Yang looked at Ranju. Ranju's expression changed slightly, and he asked in surprise. You can already release magic? And you can put it away at any time? Yes. As he spoke, Qin Yang stretched out his right hand, and then a lightning bolt condensed in Qin Yang's hand, and then the next second, Qin Yang clenched his right hand into a fist, and the magic instantly disappeared. Although he listened to Qin Yang's narration, when he saw that Qin Yang could really release magic freely, Ranju's pupils shrank slightly, and he couldn't help but take a deep breath. What's wrong? Looking at Ranju's shocked look, Qin Yang felt a little funny. Originally, Ranju wanted to say something, but when he saw the smile on Qin Yang's face, he immediately lost interest and turned away. Hey! Qin Yang hurried to catch up, but Ranju's voice came over. Your magic is very special, it has reached the level that only a second-level magician can do. When facing a magician of the same level, your specialness will bring you great convenience. Yeah. Qin Yang nodded. Qin Yang knew better than Ranju where the convenience brought by the specialness of his magic was reflected. After all, he didn't read so many cartoons and novels in his previous life for nothing. Besides, he had fought with so many people in his own world. He couldn't say how he fought against monsters, but he had much more experience in dealing with people. By the way, you said that being able to control your magic freely is the sign of the second level, so what is the sign of entering the third level? Qin Yang raised his doubts while extending his right hand to release the thunder magic just now. Ranju didn't care when he heard it, and answered immediately. It's not as easy for a magician to control magic as imagined. The first step is to simply familiarize yourself with it, and then use the body's resistance to magic to successfully release the magic. This is also a sign of entering the first level. As for entering the second level, it means taking it back. Magic has a very strong backlash ability. In the early stage, if you are not familiar with magic, it is easy to cause damage to the body because the magic cannot be taken back. When you can take it back and release it freely, you need to learn to chant while moving. At this point, Ranju seemed to react to something. Just now, Qin Yang cast a spell, and it seems that he doesn't need to chant, right? So, Ranju turned his head and saw Qin Yang walking while carefully observing the lightning in his hand. Seeing this scene, Ranju was no longer shocked this time, but frowned tightly. This guy. Although he knew that Qin Yang and himself were not from the same world, why could this guy ignore the damage caused by magic to the body? Besides, instantaneous magic, isn't that something that can only be done when entering the 4th level? And the 4th level doesn't allow all magic to be instantly cast, but can only release the 1st level, which is not very powerful magic. If it was the 4th level, it would be fine, but the guy in front of him had just awakened. If he hadn't crawled down from the same bed with this guy today, Ranju would even suspect that this guy had already reached the 4th level and was pretending to be a newbie. Huh? What's wrong? Qin Yang was studying his own magic and didn't listen to what Ranju just said seriously. After all, he was a person from the 21st century. When had he ever seen such a thing as hand-rubbing lightning? Although there are also famous people in physics who rub lightning with their hands, it's weaker than his current situation, right? When he came to his senses, Qin Yang also realized what Ranju had just said. However, Qin Yang was not surprised at all. Instead, he asked curiously, "What level of magician am I now?" "Level 4. Although you have done what a level 4 magician can do, I sense that your realm is level 1, and the magic you release also looks ordinary level 1. Oh, so that's it." Qin Yang was not discouraged at all when he heard this, but was a little happy. After all, he had just awakened, and he was satisfied with so many plug-ins. Of course, Qin Yang also knew that this was basically the convenience brought to him by his strong physique. Now Qin Yang can't wait to try the monsters in this world. Chapter 11 No Magic. East China Sea Magic High School. Treatment Room. The treatment room is very large, with more than 100 square meters. At the innermost end of the treatment room, Huang Rui was lying there covered in blood. Beside her, a thin man wearing glasses was treating her with a green glow in his hand 10 centimeters above her body. Behind the man, there was a group of men standing around. 2 of them were the 2 who went with Huang Rui to cause trouble for Ranju. In the middle, there was a man wearing a Chinese shirt with a black dragon pattern. The man looked calm and did not speak, just watching quietly. After an unknown amount of time, the green light on the hand of the bespectacled healing mage gradually dimmed, and he also withdrew his hand. When he stopped the treatment, the man in the Chinese shirt spoke. "Liu Dong, how is she injured?" After hearing this, Liu Dong wiped the sweat from his forehead, then stood up and said respectfully to the man, "Young Master Yi, Huang Rui is seriously injured, her ribs are almost all broken, and her organs have also been seriously displaced. These are nothing, but many blood vessels in her brain are ruptured. I'm afraid she needs to seek treatment above the 4th level to recover." Hearing this, almost everyone present took a deep breath. They all saw the miserable state of Huang Rui when he returned. They all knew that Huang Rui was seriously injured, but they didn't expect that he was seriously injured to the point of being on the verge of death. There are only a few 4th level healing mags in the entire East China Sea. This is too cruel. How dare the city do this? You won't report this to the law enforcement team. Fuck, this is a fatal move. If he is taken away by the law enforcement team, he will be locked up for life. Everyone was talking. The 2 people who went with Huang Rui didn't say anything when they heard the discussion of the crowd, but just stood there with their heads down. Lin Feng looked at the 2 people who had been silent all the time and didn't say anything. No one knew what he was thinking. After an unknown amount of time, the discussion of the people around him gradually subsided. Everyone looked at Lin Feng, who was standing in the center. It was at this time that Lin Feng spoke. "Tell me the details of what happened." No blame, no accusation, just a very calm tone. However, it was this tone that made the 2 of them shudder subconsciously, and then one of the men began to repeat everything, including Huang Rui's desire to take revenge on Ranju. Lin Feng was not surprised at all when he heard that Huang Rui was going to slap Ranju. To put it bluntly, the reason why he chose Huang Rui was precisely because of this. He knew that Huang Rui was unhappy with Ranju, and he just wanted Huang Rui to step on Ranju's face hard to let Ranju know how important power is in this world. He wanted to use facts to gradually disintegrate Ranju's unwavering heart. At that time, he only needed to take revenge for Ranju again, and then Ranju would accept him step by step. He had plenty of ways to deal with such a cold woman.
But when he heard that a boy suddenly appeared to defend Ranju, Lin Feng's expression suddenly became fierce. You said that Wang Rui was kicked like this with just one kick. What magic did he use? Space-related magic. No, we didn't feel any magic fluctuations. That feeling. One of them tried to recall. The other one hurriedly added. It felt like a monster. There was no magic at all. Wang Rui was beaten like this by the strength of his body. The two of them were still trembling in their voices when they spoke. Obviously, Qin Yang's kick had left them with psychological trauma. Huh? No magic. Lin Feng was surprised to hear this answer. He thought that Wang Rui must have been injured by magic if he was so badly injured. After all, as a space-related mage, he was most familiar with this method. But he didn't expect that the two of them actually said that the other party didn't use magic. Before Lin Feng spoke, someone on the side was surprised first. How is it possible? Did they use magic tools? That's right, you two must have seen it wrong. How could someone hurt someone like this without using magic or magic tools? If that's the case, wouldn't the law enforcement team's ban on the use of magic in the city become a joke? No magic. What does this mean? It means that they can't even think about going back for revenge. No one in the city can use magic. The other party is so fierce without magic. What can they do with more people? Really? The two were about to cry, not knowing how to explain. In fact, they were also shocked, otherwise they wouldn't have run away without saying a word. You know, Lin Feng was determined to let Ranju come today. Lin Feng didn't say anything, he just looked at the two quietly. He saw that the two people in front of him were not lying, and there was no need to lie. Thinking of this, Lin Feng immediately asked. Where is Ranju now? This. Hearing this, the two were stunned. They were so scared that their legs went limp just now, and they were thinking of taking Wang Rui away. Who could still notice Ranju's movements? Seeing this, Lin Feng was silent again. However, this time he did not remain silent for long, and soon said to the two. You two, and Liu Dong, Chen Xiao and I will go to the north gate. After their voice fell, two more people stood up besides the two. One of them was Liu Dong, who treated Wang Rui. Seeing that several people were about to leave, the rest of the people were a little confused. Boss, what about Wang Rui? He won't die for the time being, I will arrange it when I come back. After saying that, Lin Feng didn't care about them, and took a few people away directly, leaving everyone in the room looking at each other. Near the north gate, Ranju walked in front, and Qin Yang walked behind. After Qin Yang asked Ranju a few questions and knew his situation, he began to study magic alone. However, not far behind Qin Yang, the skinny monkey followed quietly, looking at the thunder magic in Qin Yang's hand with curiosity, and didn't say anything. Obviously, he didn't know why a big man who could beat people half to death without using magic would study first-level magic. Could it be the second awakening system? In fact, he was not the only one curious, Liu Qing was also curious. However, Liu Qing was much more disciplined than the skinny monkey. After the two followed, Liu Qing was about 10 meters away from Qin Yang. After all, the two sides were not familiar with each other, and they almost had a conflict in the morning. It was not good to observe other people's privacy at close range. Just as the two were observing Qin Yang from a distance, they suddenly found that Qin Yang's face suddenly changed at this time. Then it seemed as if he remembered something particularly terrifying. Such an expression made Liu Qing, who had been observing him, suddenly twitch his heart. Even the heartless skinny monkey was surprised. What happened? The two were confused, and saw Qin Yang looking at Ranju nervously and asked. By the way, did you just say that magic is not allowed in the city? Chapter 12 He will. Qin Yang was very unsure when he said this. Just before hitting someone, Ranju said that he was not allowed to use magic. He had been using magic all the way. What if he was discovered? This is not like the 21st century. In the 21st century, he was second to none. No one except his father could beat him. But in this magic world, high-level magicians emerge in an endless stream. He doesn't think he can be the same in this world as in the 21st century. Ranju was walking, and suddenly heard Qin Yang's voice and turned around. When he saw Qin Yang, who was still arrogant when dealing with Wang Rui, he felt angry and funny when he was nervous now. But taking the initiative to communicate is not her strong point after all. She wanted to explain, but she didn't know how to start. Qin Yang just stared at Ranju. But after waiting for a long time, he didn't get an answer. Finally, the thin monkey who had been watching the show stepped forward and spoke. Boss, it's not that you can't use magic in the city, but you can't abuse magic to hurt people in the city. After hearing the thin monkey speak, Qin Yang noticed Liu Qing's little follower. Huh? But Ranju just said that you can't use magic. That's because Ranju, the school beauty, doesn't like to talk. Boss, you are not so close to Ranju, don't you know her speaking habits? The thin monkey was a little surprised. It took the people in their school 3 years to adapt to Ranju's way of speaking. This boss seems to have such a close relationship with Ranju, but he doesn't even know this? After hearing this, Qin Yang thought for a while and felt a little embarrassed. Oh. We just met not long ago, I'm not sure. Just met not long ago. Hearing this, the thin monkey was shocked. It was because he knew Ranju well enough that the thin monkey thought Qin Yang and Ranju had known each other for a long time. So they just met not long ago. The relationship between the two is so sweet not long ago. If Ranju's pursuer knew about this. Oh. Speaking of pursuers, Shouho subconsciously looked back at Liu Qing. Fuck you. Liu Qing wanted to curse, but thinking of Qin Yang's move just now, he held back. Helplessly, he could only stare at Shouho threateningly. But Shouho didn't care about Liu Qing's look. He had already explained to Qin Yang. You can definitely use magic in the city. After all, when you awaken your magic, you need to make sure you have control over magic. And the magic test in the 3rd year of high school, they all use magic jewels in school. If you don't use magic, how can you test it? Let's take a step back. The world is so dangerous now, and the city is not absolutely safe. If you don't allow the use of magic, wouldn't you lose even the most basic means of defense? Listening to what Shouho said, Qin Yang nodded in agreement. That's reasonable. Like what Ranju said just now about not using magic, it seemed too ridiculous to him. By the way, why didn't those two fight back just now? Qin Yang asked the question in his mind. Since it was not forbidden to use magic, the two people should have been able to attack him just now, so why did they leave with that woman in disgrace? However, after hearing this, Shouho was sweating profusely. Boss, your attack was like a monster, who dares to move? What do you mean like a monster? Qin Yang's face was dark. Brother, who would kick someone so far with 1 foot, and there was no magic fluctuation? Of course, even the straightforward Shouho didn't say this, but just muttered it softly. However, the movement of his lips made Liu Qing see it thoroughly, and he was so angry that he gritted his teeth. How come he can speak freely here, but knows what to say and what not to say in front of Qin Yang, right? Qin Yang didn't notice Shouhu's little move, but when he saw someone chatting with him, he immediately asked Shouhu. By the way, what happened to that woman just now? Oh, that Wang Rui, she has pink eye disease. When talking about Wang Rui, Shouhu still had disdain on his face. Hearing the gossip, Qin Yang immediately became excited. Tell me more about it. Ran University's campus beauty is beautiful and has a good personality, so she has many suitors in school. Wang Rui is actually not bad looking, but everyone's eyes are on Ran University's campus beauty, so they are jealous and want to make trouble. But her magic power is not as good as Ran's campus beauty, so she can only find ways to target her. For example, today's Lin Xiao, I guess Wang Rui is just taking chicken feathers as a token of revenge. Shouhu said everything he found out and what he thought in his heart. Qin Yang was quite surprised when he heard this. Huh? You know it so clearly. Han, I know myself well and I know I am not worthy of Ran, so I didn't pursue Ran. A bystander can see clearly. Shouhu smiled. But as soon as he finished speaking, Liu Qing behind him couldn't help it anymore. You keep scolding me. He had been holding back since morning. Although Shouhu was direct at that time, he hadn't been so direct. Now he is scolding him in different ways, right? Hearing Liu Qing's movement, Shouhu was helpless. Boss, I'm not scolding you, it's us. We should really face the reality. Let alone Ran's talent is better than yours, even if Ran doesn't despise your poor talent, what about Ran's pursuers? Can you beat them? Hearing Shouhu's words, Liu Qing was suddenly stunned. Yes, even if there was no Qin Yang, Ranju was really with him, then what? When Lin Feng's people came,
he didn't even dare to fart. What should he do then? Even if Ranju is really his girlfriend, if Lin Feng asks him to hand over Ranju, will he do it? Liu Qing's expression suddenly became depressed. He knew that if he really encountered such a situation, he might really hand over Ranju. Even if he didn't, his family would ask him to do so. Perhaps someone like Ranju is really suitable for someone like Qin Yang who would fight at the slightest disagreement. While thinking, Liu Qing looked at Qin Yang, his eyes were one of giving up and relief. Ranju is too good. Even if she has no background, she has many suitors around her who are far from comparable to her just by virtue of her beauty and talent. Take good care of Ranju for me, Liu Qing said in his heart. Then he saw Shouhu's meaningful expression. He will? Me? Liu Qing was really going to explode. No one can stop me. I must kill Shouhu, the bastard, today. However, at this moment, Qin Yang suddenly noticed the strangeness of Shouhu and turned to look at Liu Qing. What's wrong? As soon as their voice fell, Liu Qing almost instantly thought of Huang Rui's miserable state, and his hair stood up. He put down his hands that were just about to condense magic at this time, and then hurriedly shook his head. No, nothing. Chapter 13 First Meeting. What's wrong with him? Qin Yang looked at Shouhu again. He must be worried. Shouhu hurriedly changed the subject. Oh. Qin Yang really didn't pay too much attention to this matter. Now he had a lot of questions to ask Shouhu around him. There was no way, Ranju didn't like to talk, and he couldn't understand many things. Now it was hard to find someone who talked a lot, of course he had to ask. Before Qin Yang asked, he suddenly found that Ranju, who was walking in front, stopped. What's wrong? Qin Yang just said it, and saw Ranju looking forward expressionlessly. In front of him, there were 5 people standing there. The leader was a man wearing a black dragon pattern, looking at Ranju with a smile, but there was a trace of admiration and greed in that smile. But it was hidden very deeply. This person is Lin Feng. The thin monkey quickly added. Oh. Qin Yang suddenly realized that Liu Qing's little brother was really useful and could give him the answer he wanted at the critical moment. I don't know why Liu Qing often disliked this little brother. Behind Lin Feng, 4 people stood there quietly, especially the 2 people who saw Huang Rui being beaten. When they saw Qin Yang, their breathing stagnated, and they stood in front of their bodies with their hands as if they were going to use magic in the next second. The other 2 were not much better, looking at Qin Yang with vigilance. After all, they knew the 3 people present except Qin Yang. As for Lin Feng, he didn't even look at Qin Yang, but kept looking at Ranju. Soon his face was covered with a touch of tenderness, and then he took something out of his arms. Then Lin Feng spread out his palm, and saw a white stone lying there quietly. The moment they saw the stone, everyone present, whether it was those who followed Lin Feng, or Liu Qing and Shouhu, all had greedy expressions on their faces. Only Qin Yang stood there in a daze, obviously not knowing what the stone was. But soon, Shouhu's slight voice came over. Boss, this is the Eye of the Wind Stone, the demon core of a 4th-level demon beast. The market price is 30 million. 30 million? Qin Yang was also surprised when he heard the price. He didn't expect the prices in this magic world to be so high, and he didn't expect that Lin Feng would take out something of this value as soon as he said he would. What surprised everyone even more was yet to come. Lin Feng looked at Ranju's slightly moved expression, and smiled softly. I know your goal this time is this, so I'll give it to you. As Lin Feng's voice fell, everyone present took a breath of cold air. Hiss. Although they already knew why Lin Feng took out this thing, they couldn't help but be surprised when they heard that Lin Feng would give away something worth 30 million yuan. Even Ranju didn't expect that Lin Feng would be so generous, but she quickly shook her head. Thank you, no thanks. Lin Feng was not surprised at all, and smiled calmly. Don't want it? That's a pity. By the way, who is this person behind you? At this time, Lin Feng seemed to have just seen Qin Yang. When he saw Qin Yang, a hint of jealousy flashed in Lin Feng's eyes, but it was quickly hidden perfectly. The person behind him. Ranju knew who Lin Feng was asking about, but what was the relationship between Qin Yang and her? Say they were friends. The 2 had physical contact in the morning. But if they were boyfriend and girlfriend, it was obviously not. This simple question actually stumped Ranju. But fortunately, Ranju didn't like to talk much,
so she didn't give any clues by not answering at this time. If you don't want to answer, forget it. Are you going out of the city to hunt monsters? Do you want to come together? Hearing this, Ranju replied coldly. No need, there are people. Someone, of course, refers to Qin Yang. Hearing this, before Lin Feng could speak, two people behind him stood up. Boss, Wang Rui is seriously injured, we want to go and see. The two people were the two who carried Wang Rui back. At this time, the three people acted as if Wang Rui's beating Ranju had nothing to do with them. Well, go. After Lin Feng finished speaking, he turned and looked at Ranju with a smile. If they don't go, you can come with your friends. Such a demeanor, such a domineering behavior, if it were an ordinary woman, I'm afraid she would have been taken down by this domineering president. But Ranju was very unhappy about this. She turned her head and gestured to Liu Qing and Shouhou, and said lightly, no, go with friends. Hearing what Ranju said, the other two almost subconsciously wanted to go back. But before they could speak, Lin Feng smiled and said, with the two of them, even if I am the fifth person, I am afraid I can't take down the fourth level Wind-Eye Giant, right? And the Wind-Eye Giant is a monster that gathers in groups. The Wind-Eye Giant, that is a medium-sized fourth level monster. An ordinary full-strength third level team would simply seek death if they encounter it. Lin Feng dared to bring Qin Yang, who didn't know the details, because he had the confidence. He had the confidence that Qin Yang could solve the Wind-Eye Giant even if he was just paddling. But if he said that Liu Qing and Shouhou, two second-level ones, were brought in, and they crossed 2 levels to fight against the Wind-Eye Giant, it would be impossible no matter how many trump cards he had. Let him get familiar with the actual magic combat first. Ranju said truthfully. Hearing this, Lin Feng looked at Qin Yang in surprise. Oh? This brother hasn't fought yet. There was no mockery in Lin Feng's face when he looked at Qin Yang, as if he was just surprised. However, facing Lin Feng's little thoughts, Qin Yang just laughed. Of course, I just awakened today and couldn't find a good team, so I can only hold onto the thigh of Ran, the school beauty. The harmless smile on Qin Yang's face, looking at Lin Feng's eyes twitching, almost didn't collapse, but still forced himself to hold it back. Well, following a high-level team can indeed quickly gain experience, but men should always rely on themselves sometimes. If you say that Lin Feng's previous words were a bit disguised, this sentence is already exposed. In this regard, Qin Yang's smile did not diminish. Rely on yourself. Those with parents rely on parents, those with women rely on women, and only relying on yourself is such a stupid thing, only those who have no family and no women will often say it. As he said, Qin Yang also said meaningfully. Why go barefoot when you can wear shoes? Why didn't Lin Feng understand what Qin Yang meant? Doesn't this mean that he relies on his family and can't get the favor of women? But he couldn't understand how Qin Yang said something like eating gigolos in a high-sounding way. However, in front of Ranju, Lin Feng obviously didn't want to lose his demeanor, and chuckled. Then I hope you always have shoes to wear. Don't bother. Qin Yang smiled back, and gestured to Ranju. Let's go. Ranju opened his mouth when he heard the words, but he didn't say anything after all, and took the lead to walk out of the city. Qin Yang followed him and gave Lin Feng a smile that deserved a beating. That smile made Lin Feng want to punch him. The next one was the skinny guy, who was almost inseparable from Qin Yang. Liu Qing watched the three people leave like that, and stood there in a daze, but finally gritted his teeth and followed them. Chapter 14, First Level Monster. Boss. Watching the 4 people leave, one of them looked at Lin Feng with a helpless expression. However, Lin Feng waved his hand. Go back. Aren't you going to go out for training? Just form your own team. That over there, Ranju. One of them followed Wang Rui to find the boy who was dyeing bamboo and talk to him. Dyeing bamboo. Lin Feng snorted coldly. After she fails, she will naturally understand the benefits of power. Of course, he didn't take Qin Yang seriously. He thought he was just a clown who came out of nowhere and only knew some kung fu. But do you want to use these boxing and kicking skills to deal with a 4th level Eye of the Wind Giant? That is undoubtedly wishful thinking. After hearing what Lin Feng said, the crowd looked at each other and quickly dispersed. Only Lin Feng was there, walking slowly towards the school. At the same time, outside the city. Why don't you agree to that guy?
I see you really need it, Qin Yan said to Ranju. However, before Ranju could answer after these words were spoken, Liu Qing and Shouhou were speechless. But soon, they heard Ranju answer. I want to be on my own. Ranju answered very seriously, and was obviously not angry at Qin Yan's seemingly joking words. Qin Yan was very curious about this. Of course, I know you have to rely on yourself for everything, but if you need this kind of thing right now, it wouldn't be a big deal if I agreed to it once in a while, right? Once there is a first time, there will be countless times. Ranju's cold voice came out. Hearing this, Qin Yan couldn't help but look at Ranju with a higher opinion. I didn't expect that this quiet girl has such a high level of ideological awareness. After thinking for a while, Qin Yan continued. But this road is still difficult after all. But if you can get everything by just reaching out, you are destined to never become a truly strong person. This time, Ranju's tone was no longer cold, but became extremely firm. I still admire you for this. Qin Yan showed a gratified smile on his face. Okay, where are we going next? Should we try to kill that giant with the Eye of the Wind? Qin Yan planned to skip this topic and see if he could help Ranju solve his current predicament, although he didn't know what the Wind Eye Stone was used for. No. Ranju shook his head. Why? Qin Yan wondered. However, Ranju became his previous taciturn self again. It was the skinny monkey who was sharp-eyed. Seeing Qin Yan's expression, he immediately came up to explain. Boss, we can't win with this configuration, right? Huh? What configuration? Qin Yan was puzzled. It's like this. The normal configuration is 2 outputs with 2 assistants and 1 healer. Ranju is a 3rd level wind element, so she can be considered an assistant. As for the bootlicker at the back, the skinny monkey pointed at Liu Qing, who was walking at the end of the team, and continued to speak without paying attention to Liu Qing's frustrated look. He is a tier 2 fire element, a DPS, and I am a tier 2 healer. If you are tier for DPS element, then we can defeat him. But if not, it will be difficult to defeat the Eye of the Wind Giant. After hearing the skinny monkey's explanation, Qin Yan suddenly realized, is that so? By the way, big man, what department are you in? Skinny monkey asked. According to his perception, the magic element in Qin Yan's body was very weak, as if it had just awakened. He couldn't sense what had awakened at all. Although he had just seen Qin Yan at the magic awakening place, Shouhou certainly didn't think that Qin Yan was as simple as he seemed. After all, it was impossible for a newly awakened mage to kick Wang Rui. In his opinion, Qin Yan must have other means. The skinny monkey was thinking, but heard Qin Yan say, Thunder, 1st level. When he heard about the thunder system, the skinny monkey's eyes lit up, but when he heard that it was only the 1st level, the skinny monkey was shocked. 1st level. Boss, you are only at the 1st level. Liu Qing also looked at Qin Yan with surprise. 1st level. Not to mention Qin Yan's skills, just the courage he showed in facing Lin Feng couldn't possibly be 1st level. Okay, let's not talk about this for now. Does that mean we can't fight the Eye of the Wind Giant? Qin Yan quickly skipped the topic of his 1st level. Of course not. If you, boss, are only level 1, it would be difficult for our team to kill level 3. Looking for level 4 would be seeking death, right? The skinny monkey replied. Okay. Qin Yan turned his head and looked at Ranju. Where are we going then? Let's go to the 2nd level first so you can get familiar with it. Ranju replied. Okay. Listening to the conversation between Ranju and Qin Yan, Shouhou and Liu Qing felt disappointed. What does it mean to get familiar with it? So this guy who looks so powerful has never even killed a monster? Then, they heard Qin Yan's voice again. Huh? Why aren't you wearing shoes? You're always barefoot. Qin Yan discovered that Ranju still wore bare feet like she did at home. Aren't her feet sore? Boss, that's a magic tool. The thin monkey's weak voice came, he didn't know what to say anymore. This so-called big boss seemed to be coming to this world for the first time today. He had never seen any monsters and didn't know anything about magic tools. Oh, I see. Qin Yan nodded and did not ask what the magic tool was. After all, he had read so many novels and knew something about it. Then the 4 of them set off directly and walked towards the woods not far away. In the woods. Looking at the three people around me who had slowed down their pace since entering the woods, I unconsciously followed their pace. Suddenly, Ranju, who was walking in front, stopped. Then, Qin Yan saw a dog right in front of them, looking at them with anger. A husky the size of a large Alaska. When Qin Yan saw the dog, he was a little confused. Why stop? This is a first-level monster, the snow wolf. You can adapt your magic to it first. Ranju said calmly. This thing? A monster. Qin Yan almost laughed out loud. He thought the first-level monsters in this world were extremely terrifying, but he didn't expect it to be an oversized husky. Yes, this snow wolf is extremely fast. An ordinary first-level magician cannot deal with it alone. You have to be careful. Facing this first-level monster, Ranju could easily deal with it, but if it were someone like Qin Yan who didn't know magic, it would be very difficult. Of course, having seen Qin Yan in action, she didn't think that Qin Yan had no chance of winning. She just wanted Qin Yan to clearly understand how terrifying the monsters in this world are, so that he wouldn't be flustered when he encountered a second-level monster. However, after hearing Ranju's words, Qin Yan could no longer hold back his laughter. What else do we need to be careful about? As he spoke, Qin Yan ran towards the direction of the snow wolf. Careful! Seeing Qin Yan rushing up without saying a word, Ranju became anxious. She thought Qin Yan would condense magic and kill from a distance. But didn't he expect that Qin Yan actually wanted to get close to me? Doesn't he know that if a magician takes the initiative to approach a monster, it is undoubtedly an act of seeking death? Not only her, but also Liu Qing and Shouhou behind her looked panicked. The three of them began to condense magic almost at the same time, planning to rescue them. But then, they saw that Qin Yan was extremely fast, so fast that the snow wolf didn't even have time to react before Qin Yan got close to him. Then, under the gazes of everyone, Qin Yan kicked the snow wolf directly in the waist and abdomen. Bang! The first-level snow wolf, like Huang Rui before, flew backwards and then crashed into a tree not far away. Boom! Looking at the snow wolf that had fallen to the ground, the three people who were gathering magic to rescue it stopped their actions almost at the same time and looked at Qin Yan in front of them with horror. Chapter 15: Another Way to Hunt Monsters. In the magical world, especially in the wild, letting down your guard is undoubtedly a very deadly thing. But at this time, the three of them didn't care about their own safety at all. They all looked stupidly at Qin Yan, who was standing there as if nothing had happened. Why can humans fight monsters head-on with their bodies? Why can humans' physical strength crush monsters? Qin Yan's hunting method undoubtedly refreshed the three people's views. Liu Qing and Shouhou looked at Ranju almost at the same time, with puzzled looks. It felt as if asking, "Where did you bring this person from?" Ranju was also extremely surprised, and even because of it, his breathing became rapid. "Why are you all looking at me like that?" Qin Yan looked at the three people standing there, feeling a little confused. A large husky weighs at most 200 pounds. Not to mention that I have trained before. Even if I were an ordinary person who had never trained before in my previous life, I am afraid that I would be able to burst out with such powerful explosive power when someone around me is in crisis, such as my 1-year-old daughter who is about to be bitten by a dog. He couldn't understand why the three people looked at him like that. "Boss, is this snow wolf dead?" The skinny monkey spoke tremblingly. Qin Yan's kick was much more intimidating than the one he used on Huang Rui. "I don't know, I guess." Qin Yan didn't care about the life or death of the snow wolf. After all, with his strength, such monsters posed no threat to him. However, he was not disappointed when he thought that there were even more powerful monsters in this world. After hearing what Qin Yan said, everyone subconsciously looked in the direction of the snow wolf. The snow wolf is not dead yet. Well, actually it is no different from being dead. The snow wolf was now lying under a big tree, constantly vomiting blood. It was obvious that the power of Qin Yan's kick just now had completely deprived the snow wolf of its combat effectiveness. "I'll go see if there's anything valuable." After being shocked, Ranju said this, then stepped forward and began to harvest the corpses. Harvesting on the battlefield is always accompanied by dangers, and one must guard against unexpected risks, so harvesting is usually done by the wind type, which is known for its speed. Apparently Liu Qing and Shouhou were already used to it, so they didn't stop him and just watched Ranju harvest the corpses. Qin Yan also looked at Ranju quietly. Ranju first gave the snow wolf the final blow, and after the snow wolf was completely dead, he touched the ring on his left hand, and then a dagger appeared in Ranju's hand. Then Ranju used a dagger to cut open the snow wolf's head. After observing it for a while, Ranju shook his head. There is no demon core. Having said that, Ranju stood up without even looking at the snow wolf's body. Is the monster core the only valuable thing about a monster? Qin Yarn asked the question that was in his mind. At this time, the skinny monkey came up to answer. The corpses of demon beasts are also valuable, but not very valuable. The corpse of a snow wolf would only be worth less than 1,000 yuan if it were sold. If there were a demon core, the value of one demon core would be 8 or 9,000 yuan. Hearing this, Qin Yarn suddenly realized. Oh, so, since the carrying space is limited, we don't need to take the first level corpse with us, right? Qin Yarn put his many years of experience in reading novels to use. That's right. For us, we should bring a second level, no, a third level corpse, right? The skinny monkey said this with some uncertainty. When he knew that Qin Yarn was only a first level thunder mage, he felt that their team could only deal with second level monsters. But seeing how brutal Qin Yarn was, he felt that even if they were dealing with third level monsters, they could still defeat them as long as they didn't encounter a group of monsters. At this time, not only Skinny Monkey thought so, but others also thought so. Then let's go directly to the third level. Qin Yarn also became excited when he heard Skinny Monkey say this. Qin Yarn was certainly not excited because he wanted to sell the monster's corpse for money, but mainly because he was thinking about the battle. I really wasn't interested in first level monsters. They were too slow and had little power, and they could be killed instantly. If it were the third level, it would be much more interesting. However, Qin Yarn was rejected by Ranju as soon as he opened his mouth. Go to the second level first and get used to it. Ranju didn't say much, but his meaning was very clear. After hearing Ranju's words, Qin Yarn felt a little disappointed, but not too disappointed. He knew that Ranju did this for his safety and for everyone's safety. If I can't deal with the third level monster, I'm afraid the whole team will be in danger. Then a few people headed towards the activity area of the second level monsters. We encountered some first level monsters along the way. But this time Qin Yarn did not take action. Instead, Ranju and Liu Qing, two magicians of the wind and fire elements, began to deal with these monsters. However, the magic of the two cannot kill in one blow. Even if it is at the level of crushing the monster, it still takes some time to fight against it. Not only that, their magic has a consumption value. Once the magic is exhausted, even if Ranju is a third level monster, it will be very dangerous for him to enter the activity area of second level monsters. Then Qin Yarn took action again. The large husky was fine, Qin Yarn still had to rush forward and kick it with all his strength. When encountering a snake, Qin Yarn simply grabbed the snake's vital point and slapped the snake twice so that it couldn't find its way east, south, west or north. Finally, he killed it with the dagger given by Ranju to cut off the monster's head. The speed left Ranju and the other two stunned. You know, although this type of small snake is only at the first level, it is really difficult to deal with. Not only is it small in size, but it is also extremely fast. Liu Qing's magic couldn't hit him at all. Even Ranju would have to work hard to deal with it, but Qin Yarn solved it so easily. This makes them feel very unbalanced. After all, they started to understand the habits and weaknesses of monsters since they were young, and then learned magic when they reached a certain age. After years of hard training, they found that others were stronger than them without using magic. Anyone would feel unbalanced if this happened to them. Of course, Skinny Monkey, the healer, is not among them. After all, he is always protected wherever he is. Then, a third-level wind system, a second-level fire system and the healer successfully arrived at the second-level area under Qin Yarn's protection. Then, they soon encountered their first second-level monster, the horned rhinoceros. When Qin Yarn saw the horned rhino from a distance, he was about to go up again, but Ranju shouted. Don't be impulsive, this is a second-level monster. After hearing this, Shouho and Liu Qing on the side also reacted. After being protected by Qin Yarn for so long, he had forgotten that this was a second-level monster. It's really no wonder they were like that. The first-level monsters they encountered along their way were originally their biggest headache. I didn't get anything valuable, but I needed to solve the problem. As a result, every time before they reached the second-level monster, they had to rest for a while and replenish their magic.
And someone needs to keep an eye on you during breaks. However, Qin Yang dealt with all the monsters along their way, and even some small monsters that suddenly appeared. Qin Yang was able to deal with them without them noticing. As a result, when they face a second-level monster, their first reaction is to ask Qin Yang to deal with it. It was not until Ranju spoke that they reacted and began to prepare for battle. Chapter 16 Complaints. Second Order? What kind of monster is this? Qin Yang looked at this animal that looked like a rhinoceros. The voice of the skinny monkey also came out. A second-level horned rhino is a monster known for its defense, and its tonnage is even more terrifying than that of a first-level monster. If you want to deal with it like you did before, it will be a bit difficult. Just like before, he used his body as a weapon. Qin Yang's incredible explosive power against a first-level monster was indeed beyond their expectations, but the weight of a horned rhinoceros that was calculated by tons could never be the same as that of a first-level monster. Oh, I see. Qin Yang nodded and did not rush over again rashly. Seeing that Qin Yang did not act rashly, Ranju breathed a sigh of relief, and then said to Liu Qing beside him, "How long does it take for your second-level magic to condense?" This was the first time that the goddess took the initiative to talk to him. Liu Qing was a little flattered, but he had something important to do right now, so he naturally didn't blush or feel shy. He quickly replied, 8 seconds. So long. Qin Yang was surprised. Liu Qing's face turned dark, but facing Qin Yang, who could tear a first-level monster apart with bare hands, he didn't dare to confront Qin Yang like he did to the skinny monkey. Fortunately, Shouhou came out to explain in time. It normally takes about 10 seconds to condense second-level magic. 8 seconds is already a very good result. Is that so? What about the first level? If it's the first level, it will take about 5 seconds if it has just been awakened, but if it reaches the third level, the first level magic can be cast almost instantly. Oh, that's it. Qin Yang nodded. While the two of them were chatting, Liu Qing and Ranju went to deal with the monsters. Originally, Liu Qing wanted to say something as he saw Qin Yang chatting and laughing, but all along the way, Qin Yang had to deal with the first-level monsters, so he couldn't say anything, right? Helpless, I could only begin to gather magic. The magic here had just been condensed, and the horned rhino over there seemed to have sensed something. It turned its view and saw Liu Qing, who was condensing magic. Seeing this scene, the horned rhinoceros turned around and rushed towards Liu Qing without saying a word. Windblade. Just when the horned rhinoceros was about to take action, Ranju made his move. Ranju just let out a light shout, then swiped his right hand in front of him, and a windblade flew directly towards the rhino's head. The horned rhino was caught off guard and was hit directly in the face by Ranju's windblade. The first-level wind magic hit the horned rhino but did not leave any wound. However, this windblade stopped the horned rhino. The horned rhino glared at the incredibly beautiful woman in front of him with anger. At this moment, it didn't care about Liu Qing, who was casting magic. Without saying a word, it turned around and rushed towards Ranju again. Just follow the wind. Ranju released the magic that he had prepared long ago, and soon Qin Yang saw that Ranju was floating away into the distance with the help of the wind. However, the speed of the horned rhinoceros was not slower than Ranju, and its retreat speed was almost the same as Ranju's. Windblade. As Ranju retreated, he swung out another windblade. The horned rhinoceros paused slightly and continued to move forward. Qin Yang, who was watching the battle from a distance, felt a little depressed when he saw this scene. Why do you have to shout before you use a skill? Qin Yang had wanted to complain about this matter for a long time, including some novels about magic from previous lives. It's like some kind of chinibya, you have to shout every time you cast a magic spell. Why? The skinny monkey looked at Qin Yang in surprise and said nothing. Seeing this, Qin Yang was a little confused. What's wrong? Boss, casting magic requires full concentration. Shouting it out can help you concentrate more, making it easier to cast magic. At least it's less likely to fail. Can casting magic fail? Qin Yang was shocked again. However, Shouhou was more surprised than Qin Yang. You don't know this either. I don't know. Qin Yang answered very naturally, without any shame at all. This time, the skinny monkey was finally speechless. As the two chatted, the fiery red on Liu Qing's hand became more and more intense. Soon, Liu Qing shouted, "Lead it to me." Seeing this, Ranju didn't waste any words. He floated in the air and flew towards Liu Qing. Seeing this, the horned rhino followed him without giving in. Seeing this, Liu Qing directly threw the magic in his hand towards Ranju. Fireball. Ranju seemed to have been prepared for this. The moment Liu Qing made his move, he turned in the air, leaving Qin Yang dumbfounded. No, aren't you afraid of exposing yourself if you wear a skirt that flutters like this? As soon as these words were spoken, Qin Yang clearly felt Ranju's delicate body tremble in mid-air, but it quickly recovered. The skinny monkey next to him kept coughing. Ahem, boss, we are hunting monsters, be serious. Oh. Qin Yang also noticed that Ranju was behaving strangely, but he didn't dare to disturb her. However, after seeing the situation of the horned rhinoceros, Qin Yang couldn't help but speak. It didn't hurt much, did it? In Qin Yang's eyes, the horned rhino did suffer a lot of damage after resisting Liu Qing's fireball, but it did not affect its mobility. Still rushing towards Ranju. Skinny Monkey was explaining science to Qin Yang like a teacher. That's what a second-level magic is like. If it were a third-level magic, it might be able to kill a monster in one strike. Magic of the same level is unlikely to kill a monster in one strike. Oh, I see. Qin Yang nodded. Seeing the two people in the field playing the same cooperation as before, he continued to ask. In that case, how many attacks do we need to deal with this second level one? About 7 or 8 times. The skinny monkey said this with some uncertainty. So many times? Wouldn't it take a long time to fight that second level monster? Qin Yang was speechless. Of course, not everyone can be like the big boss and deal with monsters without using magic. The skinny monkey's words were not a compliment. Before he met Qin Yang, he had never seen anyone hunting monsters like that. Qin Yang did not say anything after hearing this, but quietly observed the attack habits of this monster. This horned rhino. How should I put it? With his ability, if he were to use his bare hands, it would indeed be quite troublesome, but if he had a sharp weapon that could hurt the horned rhino, it would be about the same as killing a first-level monster. Of course, it would be much easier with Barret, he can even snipe instantly or flick the target. Unfortunately, something like Barret no longer exists in this world, and it would be a hassle for him to get it even in the 21st century. Of course, trouble can be found. Given his father's title as the guardian god of China, it is possible for him to get a Barret. But how can I explain the use of Barret to my father when the time comes? I use the Barret to pick up girls. That definitely won't work. The battle was intense, and Qin Yang had already begun to consider whether to bring a Barret with him. Soon, while Qin Yang was thinking, the battle here gradually came to an end. Chapter 17 Preparation for Practice. Fireball. With Liu Qing's shouting again, the horned rhino finally couldn't bear it anymore. He looked at Ranju in the air with hatred on his face and died with hatred in his heart. Boom! As the horned rhinoceros collapsed, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Then Ranju went to harvest the corpses, while Liu Qing stood there gasping for breath. Are you too weak, big brother? Qin Yang complained at the right time. Huh? What's wrong? The skinny monkey was a little confused and didn't know what Qin Yang meant. Standing still and casting a few spells are enough to make you so tired. Qin Yang explained the origin of Shu. Casting magic consumes a lot of mental energy, and it is very difficult to control the balance of magic. If it were an ordinary magician, I'm afraid he would fail several times. It's amazing that you can guarantee that you won't fail, brother. Is that so? Qin Yang expressed his doubt. After all, when he was experimenting with magic before, he didn't feel tired at all. Magic was cast as soon as he said it, and he didn't need to shout any slogans. Of course it is. So your healing magic will also be very tiring. That's for sure. Skinny Monkey basically answers every question. And Qin Yang finally chose to believe it. As for Liu Qing, who was standing not far from them, he felt so frustrated when he heard their conversation. It's already amazing that he, a level 2 player, can kill the monster so quickly when he is the only output in the team, right? I didn't expect that I would be disliked by others. Under normal circumstances, he would either throw a fireball or simply quit. But thinking of Qin Yang's horrific methods of dealing with first-level monsters, Liu Qing felt that he could still endure it. Several people have their own thoughts. Ranju began to harvest the corpses of the horned rhinoceros with a dagger. After Ranju had collected all of the horned rhinoceros internal organs, he came to the crowd and said, "This one doesn't have a demon core. Remember how many demon beasts there are. Go out and divide the money." As soon as their voice fell, Liu Qing hurriedly said, it's okay. I still trust your credibility, Ranju." In response, Shouho and Qin Yang also nodded. Especially Qin Yang, although he had only known Ranju for a short time, he still trusted him very much. After all, this girl speaks her mind and never hides anything. As for this money, Qin Yang didn't know where the money was needed, so if he was given it, he would take it, and if he wasn't given it, he would just ignore it. Seeing everyone nod, Ranju then turned his gaze to Qin Yang and asked, "How do you feel?" "It's okay. I feel that if I were given a weapon that can hurt it, I could solve it faster than you." Qin Yang told the truth. However, such words made Liu Qing feel very heartbroken. "I'm working myself to death here, and I didn't expect that I would be despised by others." On the contrary, Ranju did not show much emotion when he heard this, but silently showed the dagger in his hand that he used to harvest the corpses of monsters. "Is this okay?" "It's too short, is there a longer one?" "No." "Then let's use this one. It can also be used." Qin Yang took the dagger from Ranju and observed it carefully for a while. He didn't know what material it was made of. If possible, it would be nice to take it back and ask someone to copy a big knife for him. After hearing Qin Yang's words, everyone was speechless. Do I really have to use this corpse harvesting dagger to fight a second-level monster? If it really is the same as before, they will really cry to death, especially Liu Qing. He had already used up half of his magic power to deal with a second-level monster. He couldn't deal with 2 more. If Qin Yang could still hunt down second-level monsters like cutting leeks, he would really have to call Qin Yang their boss like the skinny monkey. So what do we say next? The skinny monkey seemed to see everyone's confusion and asked, "Let's try it first." Ranju said calmly, "If not, I can save people." As for Liu Qing, he covered his chest and said, "That's right, I need to take a break too." "Okay, where is the next monster?" Qin Yang picked up the dagger, already looking forward to fighting the second-level monster. The monster that Liu Qing had just defeated with great effort already made him feel a little excited. "Don't worry, we have to look for the lone monster, otherwise it will be dangerous," Ranju said. "Well, I'll leave this to you." Qin Yang nodded. Qin Yang had no experience at all about when monsters were alone and when they lived in groups. Ranju nodded when he heard this, and then left without looking back. Seeing this, Qin Yang wanted to follow, but was stopped by the skinny monkey. "What's wrong?" "School Beauty Ran is going to look for a lone monster, so the rest of us should rest here," the skinny monkey explained. "Then why don't I follow them?" "Oh, there's a tired guy here, and if I leave, there will be no one to protect you." Qin Yang originally wanted to say that if he met a suitable person, he would just kill him directly. But looking at Liu Qing's condition, let's just forget it. One is a healer and the other is half dead. If I leave now, these two will be completely finished if they encounter some monster. Puff. When Liu Qing heard this, he almost vomited blood. Whether this guy can deal with a second-level monster is another matter, but why does he act like they are burden? It has to be said that at this moment, Qin Yang was almost the same as Skinny Monkey in Liu Qing's mind. After all, skinny guys are also very annoying. Qin Yang did not follow Ranju, but sat on the ground in an ungraceful manner under the gaze of Shou Hu. Seeing this, Skinny Monkey also sat next to Qin Yang. "Boss, where are you from? Why do I feel like you know nothing about magic and monsters?" "Know nothing about magic and monsters? There are such people in this world, but they are basically ordinary people who will never come into contact with monsters in their lifetime. But with Qin Yang's skills, he can kill a first-level monster, and he seems very confident that he can take down a second-level monster. How is it possible that he knows nothing about monsters?" Not only Shouho was puzzled, Liu Qing also began to listen attentively. However, Qin Yang just laughed it off. "I can't tell you this. It's a secret. I originally thought that Qin Yang would tell me which village it was or something, but I didn't expect the other party to actually say it was a secret." "What's the secret about this? Just tell me which village you are from. Could you be a time traveler?" The skinny monkey was speechless. He had no idea that he had guessed half right with just a casual guess. By the way, where did you learn these skills, sir? How come you are so amazing? I've been practicing since I was a child. What? You want to learn? I'll teach you. Qin Yan smiled. Hearing this, Shouhou's eyes lit up. Is this true or false? Even Liu Qing, who was not far away, couldn't help but look over. If you really want to practice this skill with Qin Yan, why would you need to go into the wild so much trouble? When looking for a third-level monster, you don't need to rest to replenish your magic energy. Chapter 18 Raikiri. Of course it's true, but if you want to learn, you have to start from the most basic. Qin Yan said very seriously. The most basic? They asked almost at the same time. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats and 10 kilometers of long-distance running every day. Qin Yan said in a serious tone. But the two people's reactions to hearing this were different. The skinny monkey's eyes lit up, as if he saw a way to become stronger. As for Liu Qing, he was surprised. So much. As a result, this sentence attracted the attention of Qin Yan and Shouhou. What's wrong? Liu Qing seemed a little flustered. You'd better stop practicing. Qin Yan was speechless. If you are afraid of hardship when practicing martial arts, then what is the point of practicing? Just when a few people were chatting happily, Ranju suddenly floated over like a ghost. I found the place. Let's go. Qin Yan said, and he couldn't wait to get up and run after Ranju. Liu Qing and Shouhou were no exception and followed directly. Ranju Feng was in front and Qin Yan was behind, and they were moving very fast. It was so fast that Shouhou and Liu Qing found it very difficult to keep up. Looking at the distant figure, the skinny monkey came to Liu Qing's side at this time. Brother, don't you find something wrong? Do you remember me, your elder brother, at this time? Liu Qing complained, but still asked. What's wrong? Didn't you notice that the relationship between the two isn't as ambiguous as we thought? What? Liu Qing was a little confused. You've seen young couples go out into the wild and show off their affection. Look at them, it's like they just met not long ago. The skinny monkey shared his observations. Liu Qing also reacted to this at this time, but quickly said. Is it not okay for me to not want to be like this? To be honest, it is a very painful thing to praise your rival, especially the rival who has snatched away your goddess. But after such a short period of contact, Liu Qing had to admit that Qin Yan was very outstanding and gave people a different sense of security. Even he, a man, feels this way, let alone women? Is that so? The skinny monkey looked at Qin Yan's back in confusion and did not speak any more. In this way, several people kept walking, and soon Ranju, who was walking in the front, stopped. Qin Yan, Liu Qing and Shouhou who were behind him also stopped. Ranju pointed straight ahead, and soon the three of them saw a lone horned rhinoceros. How is it? Are you sure? Watch me. Qin Yan was full of excitement, then he rushed out with a dagger in his hand. Seeing Qin Yan rushing forward as he said, Ranju subconsciously wanted to stop him, but in the end he still failed to stop Qin Yan. Liu Qing and Shouhou behind him never took their eyes off Qin Yan. They really wanted to know whether this big guy would be able to crush a second-level monster as he did a first-level monster. Soon, Qin Yan was less than 10 meters away from the horned rhinoceros, and the horned rhinoceros also noticed the intruder. The moment it saw Qin Yan, the horned rhino rushed towards Qin Yan directly, just like the one that Ranju and the others had dealt with before. However, when Qin Yan saw this scene, he just stood there motionless. Seeing this scene, the three people not far away couldn't help but hold their breath. Putting aside other things, with a second-level monster charging towards them like this, there are only a few people in the East China Sea who dare to remain motionless. Under the gaze of everyone, when the horned rhinoceros was only about 1 meter away from Qin Yan suddenly moved. Qin Yan moved to the right, and as he moved, he stabbed the dagger into the eyes of the horned rhinoceros. Puff! As Qin Yan's knife fell, blood spurted out from the rhinoceros' eyes. Then the horned rhinoceros became furious, and its entire head began to shake, trying to knock Qin Yan away. Qin Yan did not linger in the fight after his successful attack. Instead, he pulled out his dagger and rolled on the ground, avoiding the attack from the horned rhino. Seeing this, the horned rhino stepped towards Qin Yan again. Seeing that the horned rhinoceros was about to kick them, the three people behind him almost forgot to breathe. If you step on it, you will basically be declared dead. But then, they saw Qin Yang immediately stretched out his hands, then grabbed the horned rhino's feet, exerted a little force, and the whole person was out of the horned rhino's trampling range. By the time the horned rhino's feet landed on the ground, Qin Yang had already come to its side, and then stabbed a dagger into its abdomen. When the sound of metal collision was heard, and Qin Yang's face suddenly changed, and he turned his head abruptly. "Is this the same dagger you gave me?" Ranju was shocked to see Qin Yang was distracted while fighting with the horned rhino, but he immediately explained. There is a huge difference between a living monster and a dead monster. The defense of a horned rhino is extremely high. You need to use magic to attack it first, so that it can no longer defend itself, and then you can stab it in. In critical moments, Ranju talked a lot more. Qin Yang was also a little depressed when he saw this. This woman has seemed very experienced since she came in, so why did she tell such important information only now? After Ranju finished speaking, he also realized his own problem and hurriedly said to Liu Qing behind him, "Be prepared to attack." Liu Qing had already used up more than half of his magic power, and was exhausted after a long journey. However, he also knew that the situation was urgent, so he had no choice but to start condensing fire magic. Liu Qing took action, and Ranju also started to act. However, on Qin Yang's side, the horned rhinoceros defense and attack were indeed very fierce. It was so fierce that Qin Yang couldn't fight it head on. However, the speed of the horned rhinoceros was a big flaw in Qin Yang's eyes. At this moment, he was dodging the attack of the horned rhinoceros while starting to think. Need to use magic. Then should I try the lightning magic that I just awakened? After being here for such a long time, Qin Yang almost forgot that he knew magic. After all, I have been used to fighting with others for more than 10 years, and it is a bit difficult to change this habit for a while. Thinking of this, Qin Yang dodged the attack of the horned rhinoceros again, and then went around the side of the horned rhinoceros. Then he prepared to insert the dagger into the horned rhino's waist and abdomen again. "Get out of the way." Ranju's voice was heard, but Qin Yang ignored it and stabbed the horned rhinoceros with a dagger. As Qin Yang moved, a force of thunder and lightning flowed along Qin Yang's palm and covered the entire dagger. When the dagger touched the waist and abdomen of the horned rhinoceros, this time there was no metal collision sound, but it pierced directly into the flesh of the horned rhinoceros. But Qin Yang still felt a huge resistance. Seeing this, Qin Yang increased the power of his thunder magic without saying a word. Then the entire dagger smoothly pierced into the body of the horned rhinoceros. Raikiri. Recalling the slogan that Ranju and the others would shout every time they released magic, Qin Yang also shouted this slogan as if possessed by a ghost. Then, the dagger covered with lightning power cut along the waist and abdomen of the horned rhino like cutting melons and vegetables. The horned rhinoceros was almost cut in half by Qin Yang. Not far away, Liu Qing, who was performing magic, Ranju, who was preparing to rescue someone, and Shouhu, who had been watching the show, were all stunned when they saw this scene. Chapter 19. I also know a little bit of boxing. No, what level of lightning magic is Raikiri? The skinny monkey heard Qin Yang's shout and asked the question that everyone was wondering. In their impression, there are endless ways to use magic, but the first level magic has always been lightning strike, and they have never heard of such a move as Raikiri. Almost at the same time, Liu Qing and Shouhu both set their eyes on Ranju. Ranju, who noticed the gazes of the two people, didn't know how to explain for a moment. This Qin Yang. Such a talent in magic. Thinking of this, Ranju's gaze towards Qin Yang changed slightly. However, the battle on Qin Yang's side has not stopped yet. The horned rhinoceros was seriously injured in the waist and abdomen, and blood was flowing continuously. The pain in its body made the horned rhino extremely angry, and at this moment it wished it could tear Qin Yang in front of it into pieces. But even a horned rhino in full condition couldn't attack Qin Yang, let alone a seriously injured one. Qin Yang dodged the attack of the horned rhinoceros, but he did not think of killing it. After all, this was a rare opportunity for actual combat. While Qin Yang was dodging, he took advantage of the moment when the horned rhino could not turn its head and stabbed a dagger into the rhino's neck. As the power of thunder was released, the dagger quickly penetrated. Then Qin Yang made another stroke. The second-level horned rhinoceros fell to the ground with a loud bang. However, the three onlookers did not come to their senses until the horned rhinoceros was dead. How long did this take? The skinny monkey asked in a daze. Liu Qing looked bitter. Less than half a minute. Qin Yang was not lying. He was much faster than himself in dealing with the second-level monster. Although magic was used, it was because the weapon was not sharp enough. If Qin Yang was given a sharp long sword, perhaps this battle would end faster. Liu Qing felt frustrated and helpless. He really couldn't imagine that in this age where monsters were rampant, there were people who could train their bodies to such a level. Oh my gosh, is there a place to take a shower? Just when the three were surprised by Qin Yang again, Qin Yang's voice also came. Qin Yang's body was stained with the blood of the horned rhinoceros. Qin Yang wiped it with some disgust, but after wiping for a long time, he couldn't wipe it clean. He had no choice but to throw the dagger to Ranju, and then ask the talkative skinny monkey. The skinny monkey shook his head when he heard this. Water resources are generally hard to find in the wild. The nearest place with water to us has a third-level monster active there. It was obvious that this skinny monkey was not hunting monsters for the first time, so he knew a lot. Qin Yang was surprised. What about drinking water? We all have storage rings with food and drinks in them. Boss, you don't have any. This time it was the skinny monkey who was surprised. Storage ring. Qin Yang's eyes lit up when he heard this, a ring that can store items. If you were to ask what is the most bizarre thing in magic and fantasy novels, it would be this storage ring. I didn't expect that there would be such a thing in the 31st century. Where the hell are you from? Liu Qing couldn't help it. He kept warning himself that this man was a big shot and could beat him to death at any time. But when he saw that Qin Yang didn't even know about this kind of thing, he really couldn't help it. If you say you don't understand monsters and magic, I can tolerate that, but you don't know about storage rings and that you need to bring water and dry food when hunting monsters. Didn't I tell you that it's not convenient for me to talk about it? Qin Yang said righteously. But I want to know. Liu Qing stared at Qin Yang. He felt that there must be some big secret about Qin Yang, otherwise it was impossible for a person to be so ignorant, unless he was a fool. But can a fool have the strength to fight a second-level monster alone? Absolutely not. Qin Yang's strength must be related to his secret. However, facing Liu Qing's aggressive questioning, Qin Yang was stunned for a moment, and then said, "Don't you understand the meaning of inconvenient? If you don't understand, I also know some boxing skills." Liu Qing shut up immediately after hearing that. Even the second-order horned rhinoceros was no match for Qin Yang. If he said another word, Qin Yang would definitely beat him up, not to mention whether he would kill someone. Seeing that Liu Qing had finally calmed down, Qin Yang then looked at the skinny monkey. "Do you all have storage rings?" "Yeah." The skinny monkey nodded. "Where can I get this?" Qin Yang continued to wonder. The thin monkey had a black face. "Boss, storage rings are rare items. You need to buy them on the market, and they are very expensive. For example, the one in my hand only has 3 cubic meters of storage space, but the market price is 1 million. As he spoke, the skinny monkey showed the storage ring on his hand. Qin Yang took a look and found it was similar to the ruby ring in his previous life. 3 cubic meters. Qin Yang was stunned. It was such a distant word. He almost forgot how big 3 cubic meters were. But soon Qin Yang frowned. Is 1 million too expensive? If it were the 21st century, he could buy it even for 30 million. If it was 300 million, he would risk being beaten to death by his father and sell the antiques at home to buy one. But he doesn't have the money of this world. 1 million is not expensive. If we don't have a storage ring, we can only transport it by manpower, which is not only tiring but also very dangerous, said the skinny monkey. So the magician doesn't need any resources at the beginning, but a storage ring. Oh, so that's it. Qin Yang nodded. Now he is eager to make money to buy a storage ring. When the time comes, I will go back to China and look for some big guys there to see if I can copy some of them. If this can be copied, it will be a huge step forward in technology alone, not to mention other things. What are you talking about? Just as they were talking, Ranju came over, but his eyes stayed on Qin Yang while he spoke. Give me some water and food first. Qin Yang came in without bringing anything. He was a little thirsty after killing so many monsters and walking for such a long time. Ranju didn't waste any words when seeing this. He directly took out some water and dry food from his storage ring and threw them to Qin Yang. And the skinny monkey also spoke at this time. We were talking about the storage ring. It seems that the boss doesn't have a storage ring, and he didn't bring anything with him when he came in. Ranju understood what he said, and just as he was about to speak, he heard Qin Yang's disdainful voice. Why is there no meat at all? Qin Yang was going crazy. All Ranju gave him was some water and bread. How could he bear this after years of practicing martial arts? However, Ranju's answer was very simple. Lose weight. Puff. Qin Yang almost vomited blood when he heard this. Then he turned his head and looked at Shouho and Liu Qing. The two of them looked at each other, but in the end, they said nothing and took out all the meat from the storage ring. Chapter 20. No such person. East Sea Magic High School. School Infirmary. Wang Rui was still lying on the hospital bed. In front of her, a middle-aged man in his 30s was treating him, and his treatment technique seemed to be of a high level. Behind the middle-aged man, Lin Feng was looking at Lei Yuan in front of him with a cold expression. How is it? Did you find out? Lei Yuan looked a little hesitant when he heard this. Seeing this, Lin Feng snorted coldly. Just say whatever you want to say, don't grind your teeth. I couldn't find any specific information about this person. It felt like this person appeared out of nowhere, but I did find some information about this person at the place where magic awakened. When he heard the first half of the sentence, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown, but when he heard the second half, he hurriedly said, Oh? Any information? No, I only know that this person is called Qin Yang, he is 18 years old, and today he awakened for the first time, and his awakening was to the lightning element, that's all. Huh? The first awakening at the age of 18. Lin Feng was stunned when he heard the news. Yes. Lei Yuan did not continue speaking. After all, awakening at the age of 18 was itself a bit puzzling. Is there no other news besides this? Lin Feng frowned. No more. After hearing Lei Yuan's words, Lin Feng paced back and forth in the medical room, and what Qin Yang said to him today kept appearing in his mind. Thinking that Ranju went out today just for Qin Yang, he gnashed his teeth even more. It seems that this Qin Yang is Ranju's backup plan for the magic competition. Magic competition? He is not a student of our school. Oh. Lei Yuan was stunned. The magic competition is equivalent to the college entrance examination. Although the team must be composed of students from their school, there is one more point, which is that there can be 2 additional places. And the attached person must not exceed the highest level in the team. In other words, the highest level of the people in the school is the level at which the people attached to them cannot exceed. This Qin Yang, his thunder attribute has just awakened, but no one dares to underestimate this newly awakened person. After all, they all knew that what was terrifying about this man was not his magic, but his skills. Magic requires chanting. If this person rushes forward recklessly, although he cannot directly defeat the entire team, he can still cause them considerable trouble. It is even possible that you will be kicked out if you are not careful. Just look at Wang Rui's injuries and you will know. What should we do next? Lei Yuan asked. Lin Feng thought about this for a while and said calmly. Take care of Wang Rui. If she wakes up, give her the benefits you promised her. I'm going to go out and do something. Doing things. Lei Yuan was stunned. Ranju's team is not the only one that can find a substitute. Lin Feng said this and left. When Lei Yuan heard this, he was confused at first, and then he became excited. Lin Feng is also looking for a substitute. Of course, Lin Feng couldn't look for a substitute in the East China Sea. If not in the East China Sea, where else could he look? Kyoto. Although he didn't want to admit it, he knew that those freaks in Kyoto were more than twice as strong as those in the East China Sea. If it were really those freaks in Kyoto, wouldn't they have almost certainly won this competition? Field. Qin Yang looked at the meat the two of them brought out, somewhat speechless. That's all. Is this not enough? The two were shocked. Skinny Monkey even added. Boss, this is our food for 10 days. Is it not enough for you? Isn't this all you eat in 10 days? Qin Yang was speechless as he looked at the 1 or 2 kilograms of beef. Well, we don't just eat meat, this is enough, replied the Skinny Monkey. Forget it, I'll go cut that thing and cook it. Qin Yang said as he stood up and prepared to cut the meat of the horned rhino. "Boss, don't." Seeing this, the skinny monkey hurriedly stopped him. "What's wrong?" Qin Yang asked puzzledly. "You can't eat that stuff." "Why? Is it poisonous?" Qin Yang was puzzled again. "It's not poisonous, but the meat of this monster has great energy. If you eat it, your body will not be able to hold on." The skinny monkey had seen Qin Yang's ignorance. Now he was no longer surprised, but was afraid that Qin Yang would really eat the monster meat. "Boss, this meat is really inedible." Liu Qing also came up to stop him. Qin Yang looked at Ranju with some suspicion. Ranju also nodded. Seeing that all three of them were like this, Qin Yang continued to ask. "What do you mean by your body can't hold on after eating? The energy stored in the body of a monster is enormous. An ordinary person would probably explode if he took even a small bite of it," Ranju explained. "Oh, it means to provide you with food. That's just right for me." Qin Yang's eyes lit up when he heard that. "I usually eat several kilograms of meat at home, but it's because I exercise too much every day and consume too much. Now that there is such a thing, isn't it just perfect for him?" Qin Yang ignored everyone's attempts to stop him and cut off a small piece of meat by himself, then handed it to Liu Qing. "Hey, heat it up for me. No, something bad will happen." At this moment, Liu Qing no longer cared about Qin Yang treating him as a cook. He was really worried that something might happen to Qin Yang during the meal. I don't know when it started, but Liu Qing no longer minded the fact that Qin Yang came out of Ranju's room in the morning. After all, he had also seen Qin Yang's strength, and he had already wanted to withdraw. If he refused now, he was really worried about Qin Yang. However, Qin Yang curled his lips when he saw this scene. "If you don't come, I'll do it myself." "Come by yourself?" Everyone originally thought that Qin Yang would give up, but they didn't expect him to say such words. "But how do you, the thunder element, cook food?" Immediately afterwards, they saw Qin Yang took out a haystack from somewhere, then put his hands on the haystack and controlled the lightning. The lightning released is very small, with only sparks from the collision of lightning. The sparks hit their haystack, and soon the grass was set on fire. This scene stunned the three of them, as if they were asking, "Can magic be used like this?" "This control over magic doesn't seem like something that a first-level person can do, right?" asked the skinny monkey. "I can't do it." Liu Qing shook his head in shame. "It is easy to make light things heavy, but it is difficult to make heavy things light." Now, the smallest magic he could cast was a fireball the size of a basketball. It couldn't be any smaller. How is it possible to turn lightning magic into a small spark like Qin Yang? The two of them unconsciously looked at Ranju again. They who are at the second level can't do it, so what about Ranju who is at the third level? Ranju did not answer them. At this moment, she just frowned and quietly watched Qin Yang who was making a fire. Noticing the gazes of the two, Ranju said calmly, "Let's repair it here first." The two of them nodded when they heard this. In fact, they were tired after walking for so long. In fact, if it were an ordinary team, they would have been almost the same here. They were able to do the same as an ordinary team of 5 people because they had one less person, and it was also thanks to the first-level monsters in the area not taking action. But even so, they were very tired. Soon, the three of them sat on the ground, each eating their own food, and then looked at Qin Yang leaning against the piece of meat from some unknown part of the horned rhino. Chapter 21 Missing Seasoning. Qin Yang was grilling the meat happily. The other 3 people ate their food, but their eyes never left Qin Yang. "Hey, boss is good at everything except listening to advice." The skinny monkey felt helpless. "I've already said the nice things, what can I do if he doesn't listen?" Liu Qing was also speechless. "If anything happens to him later, please help him," Ranju said softly. "Of course. We can't let him explode. He even dares to eat monster meat. One bite of this thing will cause internal injuries." The skinny monkey curled his lips. They did not continue to stop him, because they knew it was useless to stop him. Qin Yang was so curious that he would not know what pain was unless he experienced it. The second is that there is a healing mage in the team. If Qin Yang really had any problems because of eating the monster meat, it would be within the range of Skinny Monkey's treatment ability. After saying this, everyone just looked at Qin Yang quietly. Qin Yang was grilling the meat. Soon the aroma of meat wafted through the woods. Smelling the aroma of the meat,
Shouhou and Liu Qing couldn't help swallowing their saliva, but thinking of the consequences of eating monster meat, they didn't say anything and went up to have a bite. Qin Yang poked the meat of the horned rhino with a dagger and found that the meat was already cooked. He was not afraid of the heat and took a bite directly. Ha! Qin Yang was surprised to find that the meat of this horned rhinoceros tasted exceptionally good. Unfortunately, the baking time was a little short. As he said that, Qin Yang took another bite. Hey! The skinny monkey wanted to stop him, but Liu Qing said, "Forget it, he won't listen." The skinny monkey felt helpless when he heard this and shut his mouth again. "Get ready," Ranju said lightly. Skinny monkey felt helpless when he saw this, so he put down his dry food and water and prepared to go and treat Qin Yang. Just as the skinny monkey put down the water and food, Qin Yang suddenly felt something strange in his body. Qin Yang only felt an unprecedented heat sweeping through his whole body. Qin Yang was surprised to find that his body was getting stronger. Become stronger? How long has this been going on? The peak of the Dark Realm, he reached this realm at the age of 15. Later, he was unable to improve his realm, so he kept practicing fighting skills and seeking advice from major martial arts families. Because he knew that at his level, it would be very difficult to make further progress, so he was so excited when he knew that he could fight against monsters. But now he discovered that just by eating a bite of the monster's flesh, the state of mind that had been closed for so long actually began to loosen. No. This is not an improvement in realm, but the flesh of the monster is strengthening one's body. Even the negligible fatigue after the previous fight with the horned rhinoceros was now swept away. I bet, if this were brought into the 21st century, wouldn't it be snatched up by people from martial arts families? Qin Yang thought so in his heart. Feeling the changes in his body, Qin Yang was eager to continue eating meat, but as soon as he made a move, he saw Liu Qing and Shouhou surrounding him and looking at him with horror. What's wrong? Qin Yang was puzzled when he saw the expressions of the two people. Are you okay? They both asked almost in unison. What's the matter? Qin Yang was surprised. The two observed Qin Yang and found that Qin Yang really didn't look like he was in trouble. He seemed to be going crazy. The skinny monkey looked Qin Yang up and down, and when he saw that Qin Yang looked fine, he said in surprise, "That's impossible. Many people would spit blood after eating the meat of a first-level monster. You ate a second-level rhinoceros, so your body shouldn't be able to handle it. How can you still be so energetic? Monster meat is not completely inedible, but it needs to be specially processed to eliminate all the energy contained in the meat, so that it can be eaten with peace of mind." But Qin Yang was fine. The monster had just died not long ago, but he was eating so happily and looked fine. How is this possible? Shouhou is not a person who likes to be surprised, but Qin Yang's appearance today surprised him countless times. Hearing what Shouhou said, Qin Yang smiled. Oh, maybe those people are too weak. Qin Yang could of course feel the energy in the meat. If it were given to an ordinary person to eat, something might happen. But for him, it was just right. By the way, do you have salt and cumin powder? Qin Yang asked. I have to say, this barbecue does smell delicious, but without seasoning, the taste is really not good. No. Liu Qing no longer wanted to talk to Qin Yang. Who is it? The skinny monkey turned around and went back speechlessly. Seeing that neither of them had any, Qin Yang didn't bother and continued to eat the rhinoceros meat in big mouthfuls. After the two returned, they picked up some water and dry food. Looking at Qin Yang who was wolfing down the food, Shouhou couldn't help but sigh. No wonder he said this little bit of meat wasn't enough to fill him up. Liu Qing rarely agreed with Shouhou's words and nodded. The meat of the second-order horned rhinoceros can be eaten in this way, so the little meat they brought is indeed not enough. Ranju didn't talk to them, but just held her cheek with her hands and looked at Qin Yang quietly. She knew much more than these two people. She knew that Qin Yang was not from this world and that Qin Yang came from 1,000 years ago. But now, she found that she seemed to know nothing about the person who appeared in her bed and hugged her this morning. Thinking of the scene in the morning, Ranju's originally calm heart began to waver. I don't know how long it took. I'm full. When are we going to set off? Qin Yang wiped his mouth and looked at the three people sitting on the ground. Huh? Aren't we taking a break? Liu Qing looked up in confusion. The break is over. Qin Yang said. Qin Yang felt full after eating only 1 or 2 pounds of meat from the horned rhinoceros, and he was a little excited at this moment. Then shall we continue our journey? The skinny monkey looked at Ranju inquiringly. However, Ranju stood up without saying a word, took the dagger from Qin Yang, and skillfully cut off the forelegs of the horned rhinoceros. Qin Yang took a quick look and found that the leg of the horned rhinoceros must be about 1.75 meters long. Many people might not be as tall as this leg. After all 4 legs were cut off, Ranju put the legs in the ring and threw the dagger to Qin Yang. Let's go. Looking at Ranju's actions, Liu Qing was filled with envy. How could he not see that this leg was given to Qin Yang? What is a good wife? That's it, right? Without saying anything, he knew that the other person could eat and that he liked meat, so he got the job done without saying a word. But Liu Qing also knew that it was impossible for him. Thinking of those points about Qin Yang that even made him feel safe and curious, he knew that he could never compete with this man who was full of secrets. Thinking of this, Liu Qing's heart finally settled down. Chapter 22, Thin when dressed, voluptuous when undressed. The foursome then headed deeper into the woods again. During this period, they also encountered some second-level monsters, but this time, Qin Yang asked them not to take action. Qin Yang said that he could do it alone. With the precedent of dealing with the horned rhinoceros, no one came forward to help this time. Then he watched Qin Yang holding a small dagger and reaping the lives of second-level monsters again and again. Then Liu Qing discovered another thing that made him feel inferior. Are second-level monsters much more difficult to deal with than first-level monsters? He felt that he did not exist at all on Qin Yang. When Qin Yang deals with monsters, it all depends on the size and strength of the monsters. That kind of second-level monster, which is relatively small but extremely fast, is no different from a first-level monster in Qin Yang's hands and can be killed almost instantly. For those that are larger in size, it will take a lot of effort. To say that a lot of effort was put in is an exaggeration to say that these monsters were well worth the effort. It took almost half a minute. So much so that along the way, even if a third-level team had to spend a lot of effort to deal with a monster, they would just stop, watch Qin Yang deal with it, then pick up the bodies and leave. Oh, if only it were this easy to enter the wild normally. Skinny Monkey sighed. Upon hearing this, Liu Qing also agreed. They all came here to make money, and now they have killed more than 20 second-level monsters along the way. They even have 3 rare items such as monster cores, and this is only the first day. If things were like this normally, they would have become rich long ago. But there is no reason for them to share these things with us. Liu Qing said what he was thinking. Of course not. Not to mention that he doesn't agree, even if he agrees, we don't have the face to take it. Qin Yang dealt with all the monsters. No auxiliary treatment was needed. Qin Yang was alone from beginning to end. There's no way they can get a piece of the pie. As they spoke, they looked at each other and then smiled bitterly. As for Qin Yang, after killing more than 20 second-level monsters in a row, Qin Yang was very tired. Everyone following Ranju was a little out of breath. When they arrived at an open area outside the woods, Ranju stopped. Shall we rest here tonight? Hearing this, Liu Qing and Xiuhou could only smile bitterly. They were not tired yet, but Qin Yang was very tired. If they continued to move forward, without Qin Yang's help, there would only be Liu Qing and Ranju left in the team who could fight. It would not be easy for the two of them to deal with the second-level monster. Okay, let's take a rest first. Hearing this, Qin Yang immediately fell to the ground, gasping for breath in a very ungraceful manner. The black shirt on his body was torn at this moment, but he no longer had time to tidy it up. Now he just wanted to find a place to have a good sleep. It's not that he is weak. If he had to deal with more than 20 people, he definitely wouldn't be so tired. But there were more than 20 monsters, and even if it took a short time, Qin Yang was in a state of high mental concentration, and each attack required all his strength. Seeing Qin Yang fall to the ground after a disagreement, Ranju smiled bitterly, then took out a tent from the ring and said to Qin Yang, "Don't rush to sleep. I'll make some bedding for you and you can sleep in the tent later." Okay. Hutilder, Qin Yang tried his best to adjust his breathing, but he seemed to suddenly remember something. Is there any water? I need to take a shower before going to bed. After fighting for such a long time, his body was covered with not only blood but also sweat. Qin Yang didn't want to just sleep like this. I'll go get some water. Liu Qing stood up at this time. It was obvious that he knew where to find water nearby. After Liu Qing came back with the water, Qin Yan's mental state had recovered a lot. The skinny monkey didn't know where he got the pile of firewood from. Liu Qing cast a magic spell and a bonfire was formed. Qin Yang looked at the bucket of water that Liu Qing brought, and without any nonsense, he tore open his shirt, and then his perfect body curve appeared in everyone's eyes. "Oh my god!" Skinny Monkey, who is also a man, couldn't help but exclaimed when he saw Qin Yang's 8-pack abs. He didn't feel anything when Qin Yang was wearing clothes, but he didn't expect that she had such a good figure. This is simply the case of looking thin when dressed and having meat when undressed. At this time, Liu Qing was chewing dry food by the campfire without saying a word. He glanced at Qin Yang from time to time, and no one knew what he was thinking. As for Ranju, after seeing Qin Yang's figure, she blushed for the first time, and then sat there drinking water without saying a word. Just like that, Qin Yang wiped his upper body, and then came to Ranju. "Where's the meat? I want some more." Qin Yang has a very strong physique and has recovered a little after a short rest. He is now in urgent need of food. Hearing this, Ranju silently took out the meat from the ring and placed it on the shelf that had been prepared long ago. Qin Yang smiled when he saw this, then sat down next to Ranju. Ranju handed over a bottle of water, and Qin Yang drank it without any image. Gulp, 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 hiccup. After drinking, Qin Yang took a look at the 3 tents that had been set up and asked in confusion. "Sleeping in a tent at night?" Ranju didn't dare to look at Qin Yang. Her face was so red that she couldn't tell if it was because of the flushing or the fire. "What if a monster comes at night?" Qin Yang asked this question. "I'll keep watch at night." As a therapist, Skinny Monkey played his role for the first time. It's really not his fault. A 3rd-level team might get injured when hunting a 2nd-level monster. After all, many 2nd-level monsters are known for their speed. But now, in a team of 4, his role as a healer is actually to keep watch. Just thinking about it makes me want to cry, but I can't. After they had eaten and drunk their fill, they went to their respective tents to rest, while Skinny Monkey sat not far from the tent, keeping a vigilant eye on his surroundings. After Qin Yang entered the tent, he found that the bedding in the tent was all pink. Seeing this, Qin Yang burst out laughing. I didn't expect that Ranju, who is usually so cold, actually has such a feminine side. Qin Yang didn't think much about it. He took off his bloody pants and threw them casually in the tent, then curled up in the quilt and fell asleep. Too tired. Normally, Qin Yang was very alert when he slept, but at this moment he was completely in a deep sleep and did not even notice that his tent had been opened. Ranju glanced at Qin Yang, who had fallen asleep, and then saw Qin Yang's bloody pants. After hesitating for a moment, he finally took out Qin Yang's pants, then brought them to the bucket where Qin Yang was wiping his body, and began to help Qin Yang wash his pants. The Skinny Monkey not far away saw Ranju, but did not say anything. Why should he say anything about the young couple's affairs? After Ranju finished washing the pants, the magic in his right hand condensed slightly, and then a gust of wind flew out from Ranju's hand and flew towards the pants. Then Qin Yang's pants fluttered in the wind in the air, like a wild horse that had broken free from its reins. It lasted for about half a minute, then the wind stopped and the pants lost power, falling steadily into Ranju's hands. Looking at the pants that had been dried, Ranju silently placed them in Qin Yang's tent. After doing all this, Ranju returned to his tent to rest. Chapter 23, Help. At the same time, 10 kilometers northwest of this land. Run. A hoarse voice sounded. Along with this voice, there was also the sound of wind. As the wind appeared, a woman with messy hair, dusty clothes and a scorched face was blown out. "I don't want it, I won't run, I want to stay with you." The woman cried very sadly. In front of her, her 4 teammates were struggling to resist the monster in front of them. Wind, ice, fire, healing and all kinds of magic were constantly cast from their hands. However, in front of them, there were hundreds of black canine monsters surrounding them, making it impossible for them to even escape. Run. If we don't run now, it's all over. Hurry and run to the city to see if there are any high-level mags. If there are any, shout for them to save us. One of the men didn't even dare to turn his head and could only scream loudly. Hearing the tragic voice of her teammates, the woman hesitated for a moment, then nodded vigorously with her tearful eyes, turned around and ran. She knew that even if she stayed,
she could not escape the fate of being surrounded and killed, so she could only wait and see if there were any high-level wizards coming to help. The woman suffered a lot of injuries and she sprained her ankle when she turned around and ran. But at this moment she couldn't care about the pain in her body. She had to rush back to the city as soon as possible, and preferably find a high-level wizard in the city to help. Although she knew that at her speed, it would probably be too late to return to the city and bring the mage out, and she might even have to pay a large sum of money. But right now, there is no other way except this. The other side. Everyone was resting, only Skinny Monkey was sitting by the campfire, putting some firewood in from time to time. At night, the Skinny Monkey sitting there alone looked a little lonely. But there was not much pessimism on the Skinny Monkey's face, and it was obvious that he was familiar with such scenes. He raised his head, looked at the night sky, thought about the various abnormalities that Qin Yarn had behaved today, and seemed to be making some decisions in his mind. Is there anyone? Help, help! Just as the Skinny Monkey was thinking, a voice interrupted his thoughts. He subconsciously looked towards the northwest. Then, a ragged woman was seen running towards that direction. The woman's face was full of panic and fear. After seeing a bonfire in front of her, a hint of hope suddenly appeared on her face, and then she shouted loudly. Is there anyone? Is there a high-level mage in the team? Save me and my friends, please, is there anyone? As the woman finished her words, two people quickly rushed out of the tent. Ranju and Liu Qing. The three of them looked at the person coming. When they saw the person's face clearly, the vigilance on their faces was immediately swept away and replaced by a hint of surprise. Lancy? Why is it you? The one who spoke was Liu Qing. They were not unfamiliar with this face. It was a student from their Donghai High School, a second-level water mage, Lan Shi. Hearing that the other party knew her, Lan Shi immediately recognized the people in front of her and her face was delighted. It's you. But when he saw the configuration of the three people, his expression suddenly changed. Why are there only three of you? Lan Shi originally thought that her teammates could be rescued, but unexpectedly, there were only three people. Of course she knew all three of them, but except for Ranju, the other two were about the same strength as his teammates, so it would not have any effect even if she went over. Although Ranju is at the third level, there are hundreds of hellhounds, and even Ranju is afraid that he cannot save his teammates. What's wrong? Why are you so embarrassed? What happened? Liu Qing asked. When Lan Shi heard this, she burst into tears instantly. Can you help me find some help in the city? My teammates are trapped. Then, Lan Shi told the news that her teammates were surrounded by hellhounds. After hearing Lan Shi's description, the faces of the three people present changed. Surrounded by a group of third-level monsters. Or the stronger hellhounds among the third-level monsters. Of course they knew Lan Shi's team. Leader was the second-level wind mage Mu Chuang, and the entire team was second level. For four people like this, it's probably too late to call for help, right? Too late. It was Ranju who spoke up. I'm going to save people first, Skinny Monkey, you follow me. If it were any other time, Shouho would have hesitated. After all, he and Ranju were not related at all. They just teamed up to hunt monsters together. There was no need to put himself in danger for such a thing. But thinking of Qin Yarn, Shouho nodded without even thinking about it and followed Ranju. Liu Qing wanted to join in, but Ranju stopped him. The Hellhound is a fire-type monster. It's useless for you to go there. You should stay here too. The latter you is addressed to Lan Shi. After saying that, Ranju looked at Liu Qing again. Take good care of her. After saying that, without waiting for Liu Qing to answer, he flew directly in the direction where Lan Shi came from. Hey, wait for me. Seeing this, the Skinny Monkey immediately ran to catch up. This is the disadvantage of healing mags. Once they encounter any danger or need emergency rescue, their speed will be a huge disadvantage. One of them flew, the other ran, and they rushed towards the distance one after the other. Only Lan Shi was left staring blankly at their departing backs, her eyes full of worry. Don't look at it. Ranju is right. If you go, it will delay their rescue efforts. But. Lan Shi felt a little sad. Mu Chuang and the others had tried their best to find a way for her to survive and call for help. But now, even though the reinforcements had been found, she did not go back. This made her feel like she had betrayed her teammates. Okay, take a break and drink some water. Ranju is a third-level wind element, so he should be able to save people. Liu Qing comforted her, but didn't pay any attention to any details. Ranju can indeed deal with third-level monsters, but that only means facing one or a few third-level monsters. With the ground full of third-level monsters, even if Ranju is a third-level wind type, he would still be in great danger. I hope so. Lan Shi looked at the place where the two people left with a dull look and a worried look on her face. By the way, what happened to you? Why did you enter the area where the Hellhounds are active? Liu Qing was puzzled. Hellhound is a third-level social monster. Even a fourth-level team would not dare to go deep into the enemy's territory. After all, there are so many monsters that if one of them is surrounded, he will die. How dare their second-level team enter that place? I don't know. We didn't know that was the area where the Hellhounds were active at first. By the time we reacted, we were already surrounded and couldn't even run away. Chapter 24 Wang Rui wakes up. The two of them chatted back and forth. After asking a few details, Liu Qing finally understood the whole story. It was basically a group of people who originally wanted to hunt a second-level monster, and then took their anger out on 3 second-level monsters nearby, and ended up being chased and killed by the 3 second-level monsters. It was quite difficult for the second-level team to deal with 3 second-level monsters, so the 3 of them ran away. While running, he accidentally ran into the Hellhounds' territory. Hearing this, Liu Qing couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. This was really unlucky. Think about them. Well, don't think about it. Qin Yang, this freak, would probably not be his match if he encountered a small second-order monster, even if 2 or 3 of them attacked together. They would definitely not encounter this situation. By the way, where is Qin Yang? Thinking of Qin Yang, Liu Qing subconsciously turned his gaze to the silent tent. Then, a sleepy voice came out. Why are you guys chatting here in the middle of the night instead of sleeping? Aren't you leaving tomorrow? You have teammates. The sudden voice made Lan Shi stunned. She originally thought that there were only 3 of Ranju, but she didn't expect there was another one. When I turned my head, I saw a shirtless man with a perfect body shape walking out of the tent. Even though he knew that his companions were still in danger of death, even though he knew that Ranju and the others had already gone to rescue them. But the moment she saw Qin Yang, Lan Shi's mind went blank for a moment, but she quickly asked, "Who is this?" Obviously, it was the first time that Lan Shi saw this strange face. Liu Qing was not surprised by this and explained with a wry smile. Sumtake's boyfriend. Lan Shi was confused. Of course she knew that Liu Qing liked Ranju, and she also knew that Shouhou was Liu Qing's lackey. She originally thought that the 3 of them came in to strengthen their relationship, so how come Ranju's boyfriend suddenly appeared? Who is this? Did Ranju have plastic surgery? Qin Yang, who had just woken up, was a little confused when he saw Lan Shi and subconsciously teased her. But when he saw Lan Shi's current condition, he came to his senses again. What happened? Upon hearing this, Liu Qing briefly told him what Lan Shi had just said. Their team is in danger. Where's Ranju? I went to rescue people with Skinny Monkey. Liu Qing repeated Lan Shi's words. Then you'll stay here. Qin Yang looked at Liu Qing in surprise. The other 2 went to rescue people, but he is here picking up girls, right? Liu Qing's face turned bitter. That's a third-level fire-attributed monster. It has a very high resistance to fire. I can't do much if I go over there. Then you can't let a woman take the lead. Qin Yang was speechless and quickly asked. Which direction did you go? There. Liu Qing pointed in the direction where Ranju and the others left. Seeing this, Qin Yang rushed out without saying a word. Although he was running, his speed was no slower than Ranju, the third-level wind mage. Almost in the blink of an eye, Qin Yang disappeared from the sight of the 2 people. What's going on with you? At this time, Lan Shi finally asked the doubts in her heart. Liu Qing felt bitter when he saw this, and shook his head, but didn't say anything. Seeing this, Lan Shi did not continue asking, but looked at the direction they left with a worried look on her face. Qin Yang was running all the way, but he began to worry about Ranju's safety. Meow, please don't let anything happen to you. Although Qin Yang and Ranju had only been together for a short time and they had never had sex, they were honest with each other after all. In this situation, how could Qin Yang watch Ranju fall into danger alone? This idiot woman has such a hard time dealing with a second-level monster. Why are you trying so hard to deal with a group of third-level monsters? Qin Yang was a little confused about this woman Ranju. When someone wanted to slap her, she didn't even know how to dodge. When others are in danger, she rushes forward without hesitation. Are you really ashamed of your own long life and acting like a saint? There was no way to complain now. Qin Yang could only speed up. At the same time, in the dorm high school clinic, Wang Rui finally woke up at this time. After waking up, I saw a girl with a ponytail who looked very innocent standing next to me, looking at me with a tired and surprised expression. Wang Rui, you finally woke up. How come you are still seriously injured? If Master Lin hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known what happened. Wang Rui was touched at first when he heard the girl's concern, but he soon thought of what happened during the day. Wang Rui was furious when he thought that the man he fell in love with at first sight would do such a heavy thing to him for Ranju. It's still that bitch Ranju. What happened to her? The girl with ponytail looked incredulous. When she came, she just heard Lin Feng say that Wang Rui was injured and needed a girl to take care of him. As Wang Rui's best friend, she naturally came over. But I didn't expect that this matter was related to Ranju. Today, Master Lin asked me to invite her to join the team, but not only did she not come, she also asked a wild man who came from nowhere to come and do it. Wang Rui spoke evasively. The girl with the ponytail was a little confused when she heard this. Wild man. Isn't it forbidden to abuse magic in the city? When Wang Rui mentioned Ranju, he became upset and said immediately. Lulu, don't worry about this for now. Where are Lin Xiao and the others? Where are Ranju and the others? I don't know about Mr. Lin, but I heard something today. Seeing that Wang Rui was not seriously injured, Lulu started to gossip with Wang Rui. How? I heard that Master Lin was going to give Ranju a wind eye stone at the north gate of the city today, but Ranju refused. He also said that we should form a team together, but Ranju didn't agree. As she spoke, Lulu showed an envious look on her face. Wind eye stone, something worth 30 million, just give it away as soon as you ask. What do you think Ranju is thinking? Hearing this, Wang Rui snorted coldly. What else can I think? A woman who flirts with men everywhere must be trying to play the long game and catch a bigger fish. Is Ranju as bad as you think? Lulu was obviously a little unconvinced that a girl who normally wouldn't talk would be such a fickle woman. Seeing Lulu was so innocent, Wang Rui did not explain, but said. You can't judge a person by his appearance, but thank you for taking care of me today. Are you exhausted? Not tired, not tired. Lulu, who had a simple mind, quickly waved her hands and shook her head when she heard this. Well, thank you very much today. Go back and have a rest first. Wang Rui continued. Okay, then you should have a good rest too. It's so late, I'm already sleepy. Lulu said as she stood up. Seeing Lulu leaving, Wang Rui thought of Ranju's cold look and sneered in his heart. Pure as ice and jade, huh? I'll show everyone how fickle you are. And that handsome guy, I'll make sure you learn a lesson the next time I see you. Obviously, Wang Rui had not forgotten that Qin Yang had severely injured him for Ranju. Chapter 25. Can you do it? Ranju didn't know at this time that Wang Rui had hated her. But even if she knew, she wouldn't care. Now she could see that a fierce battle was taking place ahead. At the same time, surrounded by hellhounds. Brother Mu, you really should have let me go and tip off. The fire mage Bai Ying in the team had his right arm broken. Not only was it covered in blood, he also looked like he couldn't lift it up. But even so, he still had a smile on his face when he said this. Mu Chuang, who was known as Big Brother Mu, was not in much better condition at this time. There was a 3-centimeter wound on his forehead, and blood kept flowing into his eyes, making it very difficult for him to open his eyes. However, at this moment, he was looking at the hellhounds that were ready to move, and smiled. This place is so far from the city, there's no way we can call for help. Of course he understood that Bai Ying was not afraid of death, but because fire mags were almost useless here. If Lan Shi were here, maybe everyone could hold on a little longer. But what is the point of this? After all, a second-level water system is not a third-level water system. If you want to resist these hellhounds, a third-level water system alone is not enough. Brother Mu, are you leaving us here to die? Leng Hua, the healing mage, smiled as he treated Mu Chuang. Stop arguing, man. You should have expected this day to come when you became a mage. Do you really want to take away a woman's life? Earth Mage Yangjin cursed while building up a defense. Hearing this, Bai Ying smiled. It would be nice if we could send a few more out. Of course he understood what Yangjin meant. In fact, he was not afraid of death at all, nor would he feel resentful because the captain only saved Lan Shi. This was not the first time that they had teamed up together. It could be said that they had experienced life and death, which made them very different from ordinary high school students. I can't help it. I don't have enough magic power. I can only send one person out. Mu Chuang said breathlessly. Sending Lan Shi out alone consumed most of his magic power, and he really didn't have the ability to send another one out. Thinking of this, Mu Chuang's face turned grim. Damn, hold it off for a while. I'll see if I can get rid of a few more. Looking at the hellhounds in front of him, Mu Chuang, a second-level wind element, looked grim. Come. 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 The other three people responded in unison. Leng Hua stepped up his efforts to treat Mu Chuang, and Yangjin also used up the remaining magic power in his body. As for Bai Ying, his magic was useless, and he could only stare at the earth wall in front of him to prevent any unexpected situations. As for Mu Chuang, he touched the storage ring on his body, and then took out a staff that looked to be of high grade. Immediately afterwards, Mu Chuang poured the little remaining magic energy into the staff. The originally dim staff began to become brighter as Mu Chuang injected more magic power into it. Is it possible? I can't hold out for long against hundreds of hellhounds. Yangjin cursed as he held out. Here I come. Mu Chuang's face was extremely pale, but he still had a smile on his face. Thousand Leaf Wind Blade. Following Mu Chuang's loud shout, Yangjin hurriedly withdrew his earth-based defense. The moment the earth-based defense was removed, the hellhound attacked the four people like crazy. Mu Chuang's Thousand Leaf Wind Blade attacked the hellhound running in the front almost without reservation. However, these wind blades only left some wounds on the hellhounds, but not a single one was killed. Damn, you've been holding back on your ultimate move for so long, but you didn't kill anyone. Can you do that? Bai Ying immediately started to mock when he saw this. Mu Chuang laughed and scolded upon hearing this. Do you think I'm a god? This is a third-level monster. You look so handsome, I thought you were going to kill a few of them in seconds. Bai Ying continued to mock. But Mu Chuang did not retort at this time. The truth was that he did not even have the strength to speak or stand, and was about to fall down immediately. However, the injured hellhounds recognized that this person had just attacked them, and they immediately attacked Mu Chuang together. The one in the lead didn't even use magic. He opened his bloody mouth and bit towards Mu Chuang, as if he wanted to tear Mu Chuang apart and swallow him alive. Poor Mu Chuang could only watch the hellhound getting closer and closer to him. Then, damn, you owe me one. Mu Chuang couldn't dodge, but someone blocked him. It was Bai Ying who kept mocking me. Yue. Seeing Bai Ying who seemed to be seeking death, Mu Chuang wanted to stop him, but he really had no strength left and could only watch. However, just as Bai Ying stood in front of Mu Chuang, the hellhound was about to devour Bai Ying. Just follow the wind. A delicate cry was heard. Then Mu Chuang saw that Bai Ying's body began to float uncontrollably and actually avoided the attack of the hellhound. Then, he felt his body begin to float in the wind. Mu Chuang, who had no strength left, was still dizzy from the sudden change, even though he was also a wind element. Turning my head, I saw a beautiful figure appearing at the outermost layer of the encirclement. That is. Knock, Sister Ranju. Bai Ying exclaimed in surprise. Run. Why are you coming here to die? Yangjin also saw Ranju, but did not give him a good look. Of course he knew Ranju, and he also knew that Ranju was one of the few geniuses in the school, having reached the third level while still in high school. But there are hundreds of third-level hellhounds, and Ranju alone cannot resist them. But Ranju ignored their words and continued to use the third-level follow the wind skill to bring Ling Hua and Yangjin out of the encirclement. You run first, I'll stop them. After Ranju said this, he turned his attention to the hellhound. Fuck you. Yangjin wanted to curse, but at this time, Bai Ying grabbed him. Run, there's no point staying here now. Seeing this, Yangjin could only stamp his feet helplessly, and then several people turned around and ran away. Indeed, they are all seriously injured now and cannot even condense magic. Staying here will only cause trouble. Now we can only pray that Ranju can escape unscathed. Seeing a few people leaving, Ranju stared closely at the group of hellhounds in front of him. Of course, she can also escape now. But once she ran away, the other four couldn't get far. Furthermore, her speed could not support 5 people running at the same time. Now, she is the only one who has to hold off these monsters for a while until they run far away. Thinking of this, Ranju took a deep breath, then stood with his hands in front of him, condensing magic and waiting for these hellhounds to rush up. When the hellhound saw that the 4 pieces of fat meat that were about to be in its mouth were rescued like that, it was of course furious and immediately vented all its anger on Ranju. Almost at the same time, this group of hellhounds ran towards Ranju at an extremely fast speed like evil spirits. Chapter 26 Doing the same thing. You really don't care. Several people ran towards the back in panic, and Leng Hua looked a little ugly. I'm not capable of doing anything. Cough cough. Mu Chuang was already coughing up blood while speaking. Although the magic released by the magic wand was far beyond the scope of the second level, it was ultimately an overdraft for him as a second-level wizard. Now he really didn't even have the strength to speak, and he had to rely on Bai Ying's support to escape. Bai Ying supported Mu Chuang, but he felt very annoyed. But Ranju has no ability to save us. After these words were spoken, everyone fell silent. Even Mu Chuang didn't know what to say. Yes, they don't have the ability to help now, so just don't cause trouble. Does Ranju have the ability to save them? Ranju is only a 3rd-level wind mage. It's okay for him to be alone, even a 3rd-level monster cannot catch up with him. But if he wants to cover for them, it will be impossible no matter how powerful Ranju is. I'll go back and take a look. Yang Jin, who was in a slightly better condition, looked serious. He didn't say this to negotiate, but after saying this, he turned around and walked back. Hey! Bai Ying looked anxious when he saw Yang Jin going back because of his words. Let him go, we'll go first. Mu Chuang said with a pale face. Walk. Then the 3 of them hurriedly ran away. However, not long after they started walking, they ran into the skinny monkey. Xiaoming? Why are you here? Where is Ranju? The skinny monkey called Xiaoming was surprised to see the 3 of them, but when he saw that Ranju was nowhere to be seen, he asked hurriedly. Mu Chuang wanted to answer, but his current condition was so bad that he couldn't answer at all. It was Leng Hua who answered. Cover our retreat, Yang Jin will help from behind. Then hurry up and go. The skinny monkey spoke as he performed the treatment. Seeing this, a few people didn't waste any words and continued walking. Soon, skinny monkey's several treatments fell on Mu Chuang. Among the 3 people, Mu Chuang's situation is the worst. If he doesn't get treatment, he will die. After being treated by Shouhou, Mu Chuang's complexion did look much better, but not by much, and he still needed Bai Ying's support. Seeing this, the skinny monkey took a few deep breaths. He was really exhausted after running all the way here. After he felt better, he did not rush to catch up with the 3 people. Instead, after thinking for a while, he ran towards the direction where Ranju was. Soon, Shouhou met Yang Jin, who was in the same bad condition. Xiaoming? Why are you here too? When Yang Jin saw the skinny monkey, he was surprised, but he quickly reacted. You came in with Ranju. Stop talking nonsense and start healing first. The skinny monkey didn't want to say any nonsense now. He released healing magic while panting. Seeing this, Yang Jin stopped talking and just quietly accepted the treatment from Shouhou. And at the same time, Ranju looked at the hellhounds all over the mountains and plains, his expression extremely solemn. She paused. The hellhounds would not let go of the guy who saved people from them. The hellhound ran straight towards Ranju, but Ranju slowly reached out to his storage ring. Immediately afterwards, a keyboard appeared in Ranju's hands. If Qin Yang were here, he would definitely complain, what are you still doing with the keyboard at this time? But at this moment, Ranju didn't seem to feel anything was wrong. Instead, when his hands touched the keyboard, a hint of sadness appeared in his eyes. Dad, I'm doing the same thing as you right now. Ranju's voice trembled a little. This was an emotion she had never experienced before, but at this moment, the feeling of sadness almost swept over her whole body in an instant. Next second, Ranju looked straight ahead with a determined gaze, then pressed the keyboard with both hands, and almost all the magic in his body was poured into the keyboard at this moment. While pouring the liquid, Ranju was typing on the keyboard with both hands very strenuously. Ding! Immediately afterwards, Ranju pressed the space button with all his strength. The next second, an invisible magic spread out in all directions with Ranju as the center. The first one is the hellhound closest to some take. When it leaped towards Ranju, it was only about 1 meter away from Ranju, but it seemed as if it was restrained by some special force and could not move forward at all. The entire wolf's body was floating in the air, as if time had stopped. Not only this hellhound, but behind it, a large group of hellhounds were fixed there in various strange postures, unable to move at all. He controls hundreds of hellhounds by himself. If Mu Chuang and the others saw such ability, they would probably faint from fright. You know, even a 6th level space mage does not have such ability. But Ranju, who is only at the 3rd level, is able to control hundreds of 3rd level monsters by himself. Seeing all this, Ranju did not feel surprised. Instead, the sadness on his face became more obvious. With this sadness, Ranju turned his head and ran away, slightly out of breath. She knew that she couldn't control these monsters for too long with her abilities. Her magic power was almost exhausted after this. If she continued to stay here, something bad would definitely happen. However, as soon as he took action, Ranju felt dizzy. Then, their whole person collapsed. However, the next second, a pair of big hands steadily caught Ranju, who was about to fall. It's Qin Yang. You're such a mess, bitch. Qin Yang cursed and was also shocked by Ranju's methods. He didn't expect that this seemingly weak girl actually had such methods. Although Qin Yang was not familiar with the magic world, he knew that this was definitely not something a 3rd level wizard could do. If that's really the case, then the 3rd level would be able to beat everyone in their world. I'm afraid even my dad wouldn't be his match. Seeing Qin Yang scolding, Ranju had a weak smile on his face. If my dad were here, he would want me to do the same. Because that's what he did. Ranju added something in his mind but didn't say it out loud. Hey! Qin Yang was helpless. He knew that there must be some reason why Ranju risked his life to save these irrelevant people. After hearing what Ranju said, what else could Qin Yang do except feel helpless? It would be better for him to leave here first. There were hundreds of dogs. Even if they were not from the magical world, it would take him a while to kill them, not to mention that these were monsters. Qin Yang carried Ranju away in a princess hug. However, as soon as Qin Yang left, Ranju looked puzzled. Not this way. I don't know, I just got lost and came here. Lost. Ranju, who was already weak, looked even more confused. It had been a long time since she heard this word.